Chapter 1353. On the 19th floor, there were 17 darkest cells. The people imprisoned here had once influenced the 36 regions of the sacred boundary. Some had reached the peak of the demon genius list, some had made it onto the saint talent list, and some had been hailed as the future successor of the Holy King. They were the small group of people at the peak of each era. Each of them carried a deep grudge or was involved in a huge conspiracy and ended up here. Another voice was heard. Speaking of which, how long has it been since that woman came? What? Are you regretting that you did not go out and become a dog for the demons? What's the point of discussing this? Go to sleep. Don't think too much. You can't go out. Can't you just be a lazy fish like me? Those guys guarding the prison seem to have left. So what if they left? They have rank 3 cultivation level. What can you do to them? There's nothing you can do. Rank 3 saints are nothing. If I did not coming back then. So what if he's rank 3? I would still smash his dog head. Damn it, if this dog shit nail and imprint could be removed, I would self-destruct and make him lie in bed for thousands of years. F****, K's grandmother. What are you doing, old Kong? If you're angry, go find a rank 9 saint. Go find a holy king. Why are you glaring at me? I'm not the one who imprisoned you here. The discussions gradually increased, but at a certain point, it suddenly quietened down. The darkness returned to silence. The 7th floor of the sacred prison was a cold and gloomy place. Shock waves exploded all around, and the flames of war filled the sky. Chi, bang! Lin Shun, who was hiding in the dark, killed a low-level holy demon king with a punch and took the high-level blood essence it dropped. The 7th floor has also started to encircle and annihilate the demons. Very good. Fishing in troubled waters is my favorite thing to do. When Lin Chen's consciousness entered clear snow plant pouch, his expression was very interesting. At this moment, his clear snow plant pouch was undulating. Luck spirit plants with various phenomena occupied almost 80% of the space in the pouch. There were 5 element spirit plants with 5 colored holy fruits, clear jade flowers shining brightly, flowers blooming everywhere, and snow lotuses standing proudly at the peak of the snowy mountain. On the other side, there were even more strange phenomena. The sky was filled with immortal peaches, long kingwo, and dragon blood saliva. They were exquisite and translucent, just like the stars in the sky. They shone with a myriad of colors and almost blinded his pure golden eyes. When he participated in the Chosen One meeting, Lin Shun had a total of 13 spiritual plants of providence. After that, he became the champion of the meeting, and Little Shadow picked up the leftovers from the myriad treasure's secret realm. In addition, he killed Xiang Wentian, who was on the monster ranking, and stole Ngongjue's wealth. Lin Shun had a terrifying 24 spiritual plants of providence. Among them, there were even 4 middle-grade fortune spirit plants. That's not right. There are at least 30 types. When Lin Shun took a closer look, the number of spiritual plants of providence that had grown to their peak had already reached 30 types. What was even more frightening was that, according to Lin Chen's estimation, the yield of these spiritual plants was comparable to the previous year's yield. He had only been in the sacred penitentiary for a few days, and the plant pouch of providence had undergone such an earth-shattering change. Lin Chen's wealth was comparable to that of a top 6th grade sect. He turned his gaze and looked at the edge of Qing Shui's pouch. Bai Qianqian was standing there with a spiritual plant of providence in her hands. It was the spiritual plant of providence produced by the blue jade rod that Lin Shun had obtained from the clear sky sage king. Crack! At this time, in the center of Bai Qianqian's delicate palm, a bright blue light flowed. The spiritual plant seed started to absorb the gold saint origin coins at a high speed, and from her palm, it started to germinate and grow into a new seedling. This is the power of an auspicious beast? This is amazing. Could it be that all of this is this girl's masterpiece? Lin Chen was horrified. He finally knew why the 9 Heavens Sage Dragon Palace, a 7th grade sect, wanted to destroy the agreement between the sects and send experts to sneak into the secret realm to kidnap Bai Qianqian. This was too amazing. Even the foundation of a 7th-grade sect could not compare to this mysterious ability. He had heard of the legends of the auspicious beast, but he did not expect it to be so terrifying. Qianqian, how did you do it? Lin Shan appeared beside Bai Qianqian, and the lass was slightly delighted. She smiled and said, "This is my ability. I can gather the providence to master and make the seeds mature faster. I can also make the other providence spirit plants produce more treasures faster." But Bai Qianqian changed the topic and stammered, "I saw that master has a lot of seeds, so I planted a few more without permission." "Master, you won't blame me, right?" "Of course not." Lin Shun happily pinched her jade-like nose and even planted a kiss on her delicate and fair forehead. The young girl's heartbeat quickened and her delicate cheeks flushed red in an instant. Her face was as red as the sun. Although Lin Shun was in his spiritual form, this was still quite a shock to the girl. Host has received 99 million talent points, 59 million talent points, 21 million talent points. The system screen popped up, and Lin Shun praised in his heart. This is great. Kissing also gives attribute points. When can this handsome guy earn attribute points? By flirting with girls, sleeping with beauties, talking about life ideals, and bragging. That will be the pinnacle of life. Bai Qianqian quickly picked up the blue jade crystal rod that showed the energy slot. Right. How does Master want me to use this Providence Reversal sacred artifact? Lin Shan was dumbfounded. What Providence Reversal sacred artifact? Qianqian, you know this thing? This time, Bai Qianqian was the one who was shocked. Her cherry lips were slightly agape. Master, you don't know? This Providence Reversal sacred artifact is a treasure that can only be created by a mighty figure who has seen through the great Tao of heaven and earth and can control providence. Although we, the auspicious beasts, can see the trajectory and lines of heaven and earth's providence and attract it over, it is completely impossible to make this kind of divine object that can reverse the energy form into providence. I heard from Mother that in the world, only a very special existence can make this kind of thing. Hearing Bai Qianqian's explanation, Lin Shuai was terrified. Providence Reversal sacred artifact? Could it be that the Clear Sky Sage King was the one who saw through providence? It doesn't matter if the Clear Sky Sage King is the creator of this item. This is definitely one of his trump cards. No wonder that old bastard didn't hesitate to deal with me personally. So this is the reason. Ha. If this item is in my hands, I am going to be rich. Lin Chen's eyes lit up. When he looked at Bai Qianqian, he thought, a young girl with a long rod. What a good combination. He grabbed Bai Qianqian's delicate arm, and his eyes were filled with excitement as he said excitedly, I have a bold idea. When the young girl saw his beast-like appearance, her heart palpitated. She felt shy and expectant at the same time. Is it coming? Did this day come so quickly? Indeed, Mother was right. Men are all pigs, and Master is no exception. Chapter 1354. Lin Shun flipped his palm, and 2 mid-grade Providence plant pouches appeared. These were the Providence plant pouches of the monstrous genius Yang, Wentian, and Nan Gongjue. A mid-grade Providence plant pouch could contain dozens of low-grade and mid-grade spirit herbs. Xiao Qian, from today onwards, you will cultivate spirit herbs for me with all your heart. If you do well, I will reward you greatly. Lin Shan smiled like a fool. He had failed to live up to the expectations of a young girl who had just experienced her first awakening of love. In the past, he had been forced to sell the Providence plant seeds. In addition, he didn't have the resources to cultivate more Providence plant seeds, so he chose to sell them. But now, everything was different. With Bai Qianqian, he could quickly cultivate a Providence plant seed. He could cultivate Providence plant seed to his heart's content. The situation was different. First of all, from Lin Shan's current situation, the Providence Reversal Saint artifact could absorb the saint's remains and transform the saint's providence into Providence plant seeds. Then, the seeds would be cultivated by Bai Qianqian, who is the auspicious beast, and their growth speed would be maximized. The key was the saint's remains. If it was in the past, Lin Shan wouldn't be able to find a large number of saints' remains or kill a large number of saints. But where was Lin Shan now? He was in a holy prison filled with saints' remains. As long as there was a large-scale battle against the demon race, Lin Shan only wanted to seize the opportunity when they were unprepared to snatch the saints' remains and pick up the ready-made ones. That's right, this would form a large number of saints' remains and transform them into Providence plant seeds. The seeds would then be quickly cultivated by Qian and finally produce a huge amount of resources. This was a flawless, virtuous cycle. As long as Lin Shan obtained enough saints' remains, Lin Shan's wealth would transform to an unprecedented height. After making up his mind, Lin Shan's consciousness returned to the 7th level. His eyes were more cautious. He couldn't be reckless when snatching saints' remains, especially when he had to pay attention to the hell overlord of this level. This is it. Lin Shan locked onto one of the battlefields. Not far away, a criminal from the holy prison had just been surrounded by 4 holy demon kings and died with his eyes wide open. Little dark shadows aura enveloped Lin Shan's aura. Lin Shan, who was using pure power, was like a cannonball that traveled thousands of kilometers. He arrived in front of the 4 holy demon kings in an instant and smashed his draconic power into their heads like a furious hammer. Bang! 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 The moment Lin Shan appeared, all of them exploded. Most of these saint demon kings were only low-level saints. In terms of strength, they were only around the cultivation of level 3 saints. Lin Shan held the saint corpse with one hand. This was a saint prisoner at the perfection of the transformation realm. Before he died, his eyes were still filled with unyielding and resentment. Perhaps he felt extremely unwilling to die in vain, so he died with his eyes open. If you were wrongly imprisoned, I will make the holy prison pay the price sooner or later. I hope you can leave in peace. Lin Shan sighed softly and moved the saint corpse into the other 2 Providence plant pouches. Then, Lin Shan entered the void and transformed into the demon race's 7th level, continuously snatching food from the tiger's mouth. However, Lin Shan transformed into a demon and robbed other demons. In the eyes of other living beings, it was just a civil war. The only thing he had to pay attention to was not to expose Little Dark Shadow. For this reason, Lin Shan would not easily get close to the main battlefield. Unless he was sure that there was no prison keeper watching, he would kill his way in and snatch the saint corpse. The lower the level of the holy prison, the more times and time it would take to clear out the demons. This was a kind of relief. Being released from the prison for a short period of time to fight the demons, at least he could enjoy the feeling of having a trace of holy power. From a 7th level of the holy prison, even if the criminals were not released and the demons were not cleared out, staying in the prison would be a fate worse than death. The 7th level was the Red Lotus prison. Every cell was specially equipped with a blazing red lotus dagger. The dagger was inserted into the saints' limbs and organs. The burning sensation would not take away the saints' lives, but it would make them experience the greatest pain. Going down, there was the 9-ice prison that could freeze even saints to death, the gloomy prison that could invade one's mind, the distorted prison that could tear apart the saint body's flesh, the hallucinatory prison, and so on. Lin Shan stayed on the 7th level for almost half a month. He collected all the attribute light balls, stolen attribute points, and a large number of saint corpses. At this time, Jian Wuji's injuries in the Peach Garden pouch were more than half healed. With the help of Lin Shan's large amount of gold and silver saint origin coins, he recovered 60% of his saint points. Jian Wuji asked Lin Shan telepathically, "Little guy, you have stayed on the 7th level for so long. Have you thought of a way out? How are we going to get out? If the witch on the 6th level doesn't open the passage, we can't go back up." That's right. Since the moment their whereabouts were exposed, they no longer had a chance to go back up. Unless they had the absolute strength to suppress the 6th level, and under the premise that they could not call for reinforcements. It was impossible for such a situation to exist. From the 6th level onwards, every hell overlord was at least at the Saint Heart realm. Even an early Saint Heart realm overlord who had only opened 71 Saint Acupoints would be considered the top combat power of a Grand Elder in a rank 7 sect in the outside world. Lin Shan smiled and said, "Of course there is a way. It is simple and violent. We just have to fight our way up. But before that, we need to find someone." Jian Wuji was puzzled. "Find someone? Who? Do you know someone else in the holy prison?" "No." Lin Shan smiled and said, "I don't necessarily need to know someone. If you want helpers, don't the holy prison have ready-made helpers?" Lin Shan's words enlightened Jian Wuji. Jian Wuji was flabbergasted. "You want to find someone else?" Lin Shan rubbed his palms. "Yes, I can break their 9 killer seals, so I have the initiative to negotiate. We can gather enough people and fight our way up. In that case, we can only try to find someone who used to be a righteous person. There is no lack of evil people in the holy prison. I may not be able to trust them. Do you plan to look for them on the 7th or 8th level?" Jian Wuji pondered and asked. The holy prison's standard for imprisoning prisoners was not solely based on strength, but also the crime. Some saints were only at the life and death realm, but they could be imprisoned on the 6th or even 7th level. If Jian Wuji recovered his peak strength, he could directly suppress most of the prisoners on the 7th and 8th level. If there were any unexpected situations, he could also protect Lin Shan and deal with them. Of course, the premise was that the other party was not at their peak strength. "No, that's not it." Lin Shan shook his head and smiled evilly. There was a trace of madness hidden in his smile. "I don't care about most of the prisoners on the 7th and 8th level. I want to go to the deepest level, the 19th level. If we expose our whereabouts and fight, it is very likely that we will attract the attention of the prison masters on the other levels. Since that's the case, we either don't do it or go all out. We will release all the most terrifying monsters in the holy prison in one breath." Jian Wuji sucked in a breath of cold air. How crazy was this young man? He actually wanted to go to the 19th level and release all the monsters below? Even storytellers would not dare to brag like this. This was more than just crazy. This was simply going to poke a hole in the holy prison. Chapter 1355. On the 6th floor, prison master Xiao Yunyun was floating in the air. She looked around with a frown. "Interesting. This king wants to see where this little white rabbit came from. How dare you take away the man this king fancies? When this king finds the 2 of you, I'll definitely let you be ravaged in the palace for 3 days and 3 nights." Xiao Yunyun's charming smile hid a cold, killing intent. She had already sent experts to guard the giant spatial door to the next floor and close the spatial passage to the upper floor. She only treated Jian Wuji's disappearance and the appearance of that young man as an accident. Although the holy prison had many ways to imprison prisoners, such as sealing their saint points, saint force, psyche, special body constitutions, and so on, the holy world was a vast place, and there were bound to be some people with strange means. Even the holy prison could not take care of them all. However, she still had the mentality of a cat playing with a mouse. This was her territory. She didn't believe that she couldn't find a little mouse. As for Jian Wuji, I gave you face, but you don't want it. When this king finds you again, I will squeeze you dry. You think that this king cherishes your little bit of talent and dares to break out of prison? Why don't you take a look at where this is? After the cleanup operation on the 7th floor of the holy prison was completed, Lin Shan began his operation again. When he sneaked in the 8th floor, Lin Shan sighed from the bottom of his heart. Little Shadow and Luo Yao were the most important factors for his successful infiltration. When Luo Yao infiltrated back then, many experts thought that she had forcefully broken through the 1st floor of the holy prison. The 1st floor of the holy prison had an energy array personally set up by the 4 great saint kings of the sacred boundary, as well as the great heaven prison array that had been strengthened by the supreme, true God. But in reality, Luo Yao had broken the array from the inside. Later on, she had enough strength to break out of the prison and force the human race gods of the sacred boundary to appear. No one would have thought that there would be a special spatial crack that connected to the holy prison from the outside world. No one would have thought that there would be someone who could remove the 9 Kirin seal and open the giant spatial doors on every level. Most importantly, this person's actions were aided by the ultimate shadow with the most terrifying potential. If it weren't for Luo, Yao and Little Shadow's help, Lin Shan believed that even if he had broken through to the expansion realm, transformation realm, life and death realm, or even the 7th-layer Saint Receiving Star realm, he still wouldn't have enough strength to sneak into the holy prison. Lin Shan reached the 8th floor and continued to hide. Time passed. Lin Shan repeated his previous actions on the 8th level, but his harvests and wealth became increasingly terrifying. First of all, the Sacred Dragon's dragon vein was close to 16 billion. When a saint or a demon died, they would all drop high-grade vitality. In order to prevent himself from breaking through after absorbing these vitality attributes, Lin Shan let the Saint Dragon absorb them all. When stealing attribute points, most of the talent points consumed could be recovered from Bai Qianqian. Lin Shan discovered that the more this little girl used her own ability to collect Providence Spirit plants to nurture Providence Spirit plants, the more talent points she gathered. It was somewhat similar to the high-grade cultivation technique Soul Essence that Shun Lingshuang dropped, and Lin Shan's Providence Spirit plants had reached an extremely terrifying level. Why was she using the word terrifying to describe it? It was because, according to Bai Qianqian's research, his Providence Reversal Saint artifact could produce mid-grade Providence Spirit plant seeds as long as there were enough Saint corpses. The difference between mid-grade and low-grade Providence Spirit plants seemed to be 1 grade, but the difference was like heaven and earth. Low-grade Providence Spirit plants could produce a small amount of level 8 natural treasures, large amounts of level 7 herbs, and silver Saint Origin coins. As for mid-grade Providence Spirit plants, they mainly produced level 8 natural treasures and gold Saint Origin coins. Every one of them was more expensive. Well, strictly speaking, the Providence Reversal Saint artifact can't produce mid-grade Providence Spirit plant seeds. Lin Shan looked around at the Providence Spirit plants in the 4 Providence Spirit plants pouches and calculated in his heart. The reason why mid-grade Providence Spirit plants were so valuable was not only because of the huge amount of resources they produced, but also because of the mysterious effects they had. For example, Lin Shan's Saint Immortality Peach was the most typical example. Although the Saint Immortality Peach spirit plant produced a lot of resources, the special Saint Immortality Peach was the most valuable treasure. Therefore, the mid-grade Providence Reversal Saint artifact that Lin Shan used to obtain mid-grade Providence Spirit plant seeds could only be called pseudo-mid-grade. Of course, the amount of Saint Corpse energy required to produce a pseudo-mid-grade Providence Spirit plant seed was also quite terrifying. The amount of Saint Corpse energy required to produce a pseudo-mid-grade Providence Spirit plant seed was dozens of times that of a low-grade Providence Spirit plant seed. In the sacred prison, there were mountains of Saint corpses. Every time there was an operation to eliminate the demons, the number of Saint criminals who died was also a terrifying number. Just like that, time passed. Several months passed. While Lin Shan was searching for the 9 kills nail and exploring the sacred prison's internal situation, he was constantly stealing attributes and seizing Saint corpses to enter the next level. 8th level, 9th level, 10th level, 11th level. Lin Shan continued down, his movements becoming increasingly cautious and careful. Starting from the 6th level's Helm Master, every level's Helm Master was at the Saint Heart Realm. Every time a Saint Heart Realm Master opened a Saint Point, their cultivation would undergo an earth-shattering transformation. When Lin Shan reached the 12th level, there were even 3 Saint Heart Realm Masters standing guard. This lineup was so powerful that it was rarely seen in the world. And Jian Wuji speculated that the Helm Master was a super powerhouse who had opened 75 Saint Points. In the outside world's 36 domains, such a powerhouse could be said to be unstoppable. Lin Shan's daring actions shocked even Jian Wuji, a Sword Dao senior who had lived for hundreds of years. This child had already reached the 12th level, and he still wanted to go down. He really planned to go to the deepest level of the sacred prison. Every time Lin Chun went down, he would carefully observe the terrain and record the combat strength of each level's Hellmaster. In addition, he wasn't the only one who had grown. Little Shadow had also grown. While Bai Qian was cultivating the Provident Spirit plant, Lin Chun had a mountain of resources. His 6 clones were constantly refining pills, producing a large number of Saint pills at an extremely high speed. Whether it was Lin Chun or Little Shadow, they were both transforming at an astonishing speed. Their abilities and strength were both increasing. When he sneaked into the 14th level, Lin Chun arrived at the illusory prison. This prison had a mind prison that specialized in torturing saints. Lin Chun obtained a large number of high-grade mental energy attribute points. With the massive amount of mental energy he obtained this time, Lin Chun's mental energy realm ushered in a breakthrough and officially reached the Saint Realm perfection. Fortunately, his mental energy could be stored in the Provident Spirit plant pouch. With Little Shadow's protection, Lin Chun wasn't in any danger and didn't leak a single trace of mental energy. When he reached the 15th level, a Hell Master whose strength even Lin Chun and Jian Wuji couldn't see through finally appeared. His cultivation was at least at the peak of the Saint Heart realm, or even stronger. He couldn't rule out the possibility that he was a 9th layer saint, heaven-opening realm. As time passed, Lin Chun had already been in the sacred prison for 7 months. In 7 months, he finally reached the 17th level of the sacred prison. And what's going on? There's no Hell Master on the 17th level. When Lin Chun arrived at the 17th floor, he was shocked to find that the 17th floor was a flat ground with a tall prison. Strangely, there was no fighting here, and there was no aura of the demon clan. Secondly, the number of prisoners in the prison had greatly decreased. The cultivation of the Hell Master here was slightly inferior to the ones on the 15th and 16th levels. The situation was extremely strange. Chapter 1356. His mental energy penetrated through thousands of miles, directly reaching the center of the 17th floor. On the island, there was only one Saint Heart, 7 receiving Star Realm, and several life and death realm experts. Of course, it was not that such a lineup was not strong. It was still a great threat to Lin Chun, but it was definitely not on the same level as the upper floor. This lineup was not like the one on the 16th floor. Once an accident happened, there was not enough power to suppress it. Could it be that when Yao attacked, she took away all the masters? So much so that the Holy Prison gave up on guarding this area? But something's not right. Although there are not many masters on this floor, there's still quite a few. Lin Chun narrowed his eyes. If they do this, if something unexpected happens, the prison guards on this floor can only evacuate to protect themselves. If they want to suppress the riot here, their strength may not be enough. Even if their strength is less than 100%, the gap in cultivation realm still exists. Or they have absolute confidence that there will not be a riot here. Or the last possibility was that there was a problem on the Holy Prison side. The prison master who suppressed this floor had left for some business. Then, as Lin Chun's mental energy penetrated deeper, he discovered an even more shocking fact. Something's not right. The 17th, 18th, and 19th floors are completely connected. Lin Chun's pupils trembled. No wonder the entire realm he perceived was countless times larger than any of the previous floors. The highest cultivation of the prison guards on this floor is only at the Saint Heart realm. There's something fishy. Let's see what's going on first. Little Shadow's heart was in sync as he led Lin Chun to wander around the entire 17th floor of the Holy Prison. This plan was like a bottomless abyss. From time to time, huge and desolate prison cells would be constructed in the void of the abyss. They hung in the abyss, and the atmosphere was so deathly still that it was suffocating, as if it would never change. However, although there were not many of them, Lin Chun could only see 70 to 80 of them. But with his perfect Saint Rudiment realm mental energy, he could clearly feel that the people imprisoned in each cell were not ordinary people. They were the real peak masters. According to Lin Chen's estimation, none of them were below the receiving star realm. Even if there were a few receiving star realm masters, there would be very special existences in the outside world. Lin Chen could feel that some pure and mighty mental energy fluctuations were sealed. Of these people, some were alchemists, blacksmiths, and fortune tellers of the outside world, and some of them were famous figures in the holy world. Attributes stolen by the host: 40 billion advanced mental energy, 150 billion advanced blood chi, 3,020 billion advanced essence, 12 billion rune energy, 12 billion skill soul essence, 9 billion water attribute, 10 billion metal energy. While he was of the prison of the prison of the prison, the attribute of the heavens, of the world God, of the God realm, of course of them. As he continued to dive down, there seemed to be an endless space extending. Lin Chen reached the bottom of the abyss. It was pitch black, but from time to time there would be a dim light from some of the cells. This is probably the 18th level of the sacred prison. Lin Chen moved cautiously. The prisoners in prison here were completely different. Some of them were born with strange physiques, some were sealed by the 9 seals, and some were glowing with the 9 sun saint light. Among them, some of the imprisoned masters had refined some strange natural energy, such as blue scorching treasure chi, star treasure chi, moonlight treasure chi, and so on. Even in the darkest area of the sacred prison, even if their cultivation was sealed, there was still a saint aura flowing around them. When Lin Chen passed by a giant cage shaped like a coiling dragon, a faint cry of surprise came from inside. Huh, is there something? Lin Chen's scalp tingled. Little Shadow's eyes turned, and he suddenly suppressed his aura to the lowest level. Did he sense it? Is it an illusion? Forget it. Whether it's an illusion or not, it has nothing to do with me. The voice faded away, and Lin Chen heaved a sigh of relief. However, he was even more vigilant. The masters imprisoned on this level were extremely terrifying. Little Shadow had sneaked in again and again without alerting any of the prison overlords of the sacred prison, but he was almost detected by the masters of this level. Their cultivation is still sealed. If they recover to their peak, with this little guy's current cultivation, he might not be able to deceive them. As expected of the 18th level of the sacred prison, Lin Chen held his breath. At this moment, he was extremely far away from the prison keeper of the 17th level. Even if he made a noise, the prison keeper might not be able to detect it quickly. Even Jian Wuji, who was hiding the peach blossom plant pouch, felt suffocated. During this period of time, he had already recovered to his peak state. He had been cultivating his sword skills in the peach blossom plant pouch, and he had infused the insights of his many years of imprisonment into his sword Dao. Even so, as a 6th-level saint, Jian Wuji, who was at the peak of the life and death realm, knew that if he was in the 18th level of the sacred prison, it would be difficult for him to be as calm as Lin Chen. This kid's state of mind and courage is much better than mine in the past. So fierce. The deeper he went, the fewer cells Lin Chen encountered. However, at the same time, every one of them was close to the peak of the sacred boundary. Finally, Lin Chen arrived at a pitch-black space vortex. Demonic chi filled the vortex, and it seemed to be the nest of the demon race. Next is the 19th level. What kind of people will be imprisoned there? I'm really looking forward to it. Lin Chen jumped into the demonic chi vortex. Sacred Prison's 17th level, Prison Keeper's Island. A group of masters had gathered, drinking and chatting. With beauties as their companions, they were having a good time. Boss Xiao, why don't you tell me why the higher-ups sent us to guard the 3rd floor? A skinny saint hugged a beauty and asked the tiger-eyed man at the head of the hall. After Boss Xiao drank a cup, he shook his head and smiled. We are only here to report for a short period of time. If there really is a problem and we can't solve it, we can immediately contact the prison masters of the other levels. The higher-ups have something to do now. Other than Lord Long, who is guarding the 1st level, no one can suppress the fellows here. The skinny man wanted to ask, Then what's the matter? The man named Boss, Xiao, narrowed his eyes. Kuho, you've crossed the line. Boss, don't blame me. I'm just curious. I'll punish myself by drinking 3 cups. I'll punish myself by drinking 3 cups. The skinny man was punished with 3 cups of wine in a row. Then he asked, Brother, I don't have many chances to come here. Boss, tell me about the battle back then. Why didn't these imprisoned fellows leave with the experts of the Devil Cultivator back then? Boss Xiao shook his head and laughed. So, you don't understand. They were once all-powerful existences in the outside world. They were insufferably arrogant and disdained to submit to the pressure of the Demon Cultivator clan back then. They would rather be locked up here than be loyal to the Demon Cultivator clan or the Demon Cultivator clan. In terms of pride, they are indeed tough enough. It's just that the corner of Boss Zhao's mouth faintly rose, with a hint of disdain and sneer. It's just that this dignity can only be obtained through strength. They are locked up here without any strength. How can they talk about pride and dignity? For the sake of a little obsession in their hearts, they are just stupid. I think there might be some among them who regret it. Chapter 1357. Light could not shine into this area. The surrounding mountains rose and fell, and darkness enveloped the entire world, as if light would never be born. Lin Shun arrived here and felt an extremely strong sense of oppression and suffocation. Not only was it enveloped by the overwhelming demonic qi, but it was also a deathly and powerful pressure that could completely crush a saint. However, Lin Shun was not even afraid of the Saint King's pressure, so the pressure here was not a problem for him. However, to Lin Shun, this place was a dazzling collection of elemental glowing balls. This is the 19th level of the Saint Prison. Lin Shun looked around, and his expression became more and more excited. He had a faint feeling that he had to come here. According to his habits, the more dangerous a place was, the greater the opportunity for him, Lin Shun. Lin Shun released the Saint Dragon and collected the attribute light balls for him. A large number of attribute light balls were continuously absorbed into his body. Countless demons had appeared here before, but they were all completely crushed by the powerful saints who were imprisoned here. The attribute light balls dropped here far surpassed any of the levels outside. Almost at the same time that Lin Shun arrived at the 19th level, in the 4 prisons in the center of the mountain range, more than 10 exclamations sounded at the same time. A small ant sneaked in? Look at this characteristic. The space is not obvious, and the aura is hidden in the void. It's completely natural, without a trace of spatial ripples. It has a bit of an innate shadow. How could an innate shadow sneak in here? Even if it's the previous king of shadows, it's not very possible for him to pass through the previous difficulties to reach here. As many voices were talking to themselves, they sensed that the aura was actually rushing in their direction. The people in the cages fell silent at the same time. In the mountain range, a new figure appeared. Even though it was dark and boundless, to the imprisoned people, they could still see it clearly. The newcomer's scales and feathers were as black as ink, and he was 9 feet tall. Demonic qi rose, like a powerful demon from ancient times, evil and awe-inspiring. Demon? A small demon dares to come near us? In one of the prisons, an expert sneered disdainfully. The one who had arrived was Lin Shun in disguise. He had kept Little Shadow back into the clear snow plant pouch in advance. There were experts in the 18th level who could faintly sense Little Shadow, not to mention those in the 19th level. Moreover, Little Shadow couldn't be like him, Lin Shun, who could ignore the pressure of a peak saint. For this reason, he immediately dismissed Little Shadow, leaving him alone. I'm sure all of you are famous figures in the human race. Being locked up here for so long must not be a good feeling. A wicked smile appeared on Lin Shen's handsome face, disguised as a demon. He said indifferently, "How about it? Do you want to make a deal with me?" Rumble. Within one of the cages, a boundless aura that could suppress a group of demons was suddenly released. The aura was faintly discernible and boundless. It was as if an entire plane had suddenly descended and suppressed Lin Shen's head. It was as if he wanted to use his aura to crush him into pieces. A mere demon who's still wet behind the ears dares to negotiate with me? Die. A human expert who hated demons sneered. He suddenly increased his aura, wanting to crush Lin Chun to death. However, Lin Chun took a step forward and actually continued walking into their huge and tall prison. He was as calm as the wind, and his face was wicked and wild. He was carefree and domineering. He wasn't affected at all. A puny demon who's even weaker than a high-level Saint Demon King can actually resist my aura. Shocked gazes were cast over. Lin Shen couldn't even suppress the aura of a Saint King. No matter how strong these saints were, they wouldn't be able to suppress him. Ha ha! Everyone, I can let you regain your glory and free you from the shackles of the Saint prison. As long as you submit to me and become my servants, you'll have a chance to take back everything you've lost. Lin Shen's evil aura was awe-inspiring as he laughed loudly. While Lin Shen was laughing, he flicked his finger and a ray of light shot into a few prisons in the dark night. Rumble. His aura was as vast as the sea, and the light of the Saint Cave was like a new sun rising. The 9 killer seals of the experts on the 19th level began to loosen a little. This is complicated, and shocked exclamations echoed in the 17 prisons. This was the seal to break the 9 killer seals. Could this young demon really break their seals? However, the surprise only lasted for a moment. The 17 prisons all sneered and disdainfully at the same time. What a joke. Your cultivation isn't high, but your appetite isn't small. You're just a puny demon. How dare you make us submit to you? Even if I die, I won't lower my head to the demons. You're nothing. Even if the empress of the demon tribe came, I wouldn't take a liking to her. You're nothing. Our paths are different, so we can't work together. Even if you can break our 9 killer seals, so what? I've spent my life hunting demons. How many demon kings and demon lords have I fought? Even if I die, I won't be a demon's dog. Laughter and disdain reverberated within the 17 prisons, and their tones revealed a unique sense of pride and integrity. Some of them were even furious. A few experts released their aura at the same time, wanting to crush Lin Shan to death. As expected, these people are the most courageous experts in the Saint prison. Lin Shen's eyes were filled with excitement. He didn't make a wrong bet. He made the right bet. Chapter 1358. When they saw Lin Shen's true appearance, they were all shocked. A human youth in his 20s? His spirit has reached the saint level, and he is pure and flawless. He is one with the heavens, and there are no signs of him being possessed. His meridians are pure, and his blood essence has the smell of righteousness. There is no demon bloodline mixed in. The experts were all very experienced, and they saw through Lin Shen's background at a glance. However, it was precisely because they saw through him at a glance that they were even more terrified. If he was a legitimate human, how did he get in here? A human youth in his 20s, who could even be called a baby in front of them, dared to barge into the lowest level of the Saint prison? At this time, the Saint Dragon took away all the attribute light balls in the 19th level of the Saint prison and flew over aggressively, entangling itself next to Lin Shen. Lin Shen leaped up and stood on the dragon's head. With a swipe of his palm, 17 rays of light shot out. It was as if a portion of a 9 killer seals had been unsealed in the 17 prisons. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Their Saint acupoints rumbled and vibrated. The dim Saint acupoints slowly absorbed a small amount of spiritual chi. All the experts' Saint acupoints began to quietly produce traces of Saint chi, like water sinking in a dry land, nourishing their injured Saint bodies. All the experts were shocked, and they felt as if they were in a dream, intoxicated. This familiar yet strange feeling caused them to be both shocked and infatuated. Even if it was very faint, it was the power they had dreamed of for countless years. It was the Saint power they had dreamed of recovering. It had been too long since their Saint acupuncture points had recovered their Saint power, They, who had once possessed power, had been awe-inspiring and carefree in the sacred boundary. They had been revered and worshipped by countless people, and their names had shaken the mountains and rivers of various regions. They had dominated their respective regions for tens of thousands of years. They had once judged the life and death of billions of people with a single word, and made all living beings ascend with a single word. That was an era that belonged only to them. They were the true masters of this era and the chosen ones. However, they had been thrown into the saint prison, and everything they had was taken away by those high and mighty saint kings and the legendary creators. They had been prisoners for countless years, and they had even thought that their glorious days were just a dream. At this moment, it was not only the saint energy that was awakened, but also the memories that were hidden deep in the hearts of all the powerhouses. Who are you?" Inside one of the cells, a trembling voice could be heard. "Who am I?" The corners of Lin Chen's mouth lifted slightly. Golden radiance flowed through his entire body. He was mighty like a god, vast like an ocean, and he emanated an aura of battle intent that could rival the myriad of worlds in the universe. "Who am I? My name is Lin Chen. My name is not important. What is important is that I am the one who can help you regain your honor. I can make you rise again and look down on the world. I can give you a chance to be reborn. I can give you a chance to challenge your former enemy, the sacred prison." Lin Chen said loudly, his tone sincere and impassioned. "Everyone, don't care about the shameless history of the ages, and don't care about the gods who make fools of the masses. If you call me your master, from now on, you'll be under one person and above millions of people. You won't need to worship the heavens, and you won't need to kowtow to the gods anymore. You will only recognize me, Lin Chen. From now on, you will only have me, Lin Chen, in your hearts, and there will be no gods anymore. Those who follow me will put their lives in my hands. Together, we will break through this sacred prison and become the #1 maniac in the ages who doesn't care about life and death." All the powerhouses in the 17 cells froze, as if they had been struck by lightning. His tone revealed his true feelings, and he was full of spirit. At this moment, a ray of golden light shone from the eternal darkness of the 19th level of the sacred prison. The light became even more dazzling and unstoppable. Rumble. Strong winds blew in the 19th level of the sacred prison. The wind howled, but it could not blow away the flames of battle that disrupted the fighting spirit. The golden divine light illuminated every cell. The 17 shackled powerhouses stared in the direction of the golden divine light. The youth wore a silver robe and stood on the head of the sacred dragon. His body was as straight as a spear. The sacred dragon lowered its head, and yin and yang dragon auras circled around his body. The golden divine light tumbled like a dragon, sprinkling down on his body. He bathed in the golden divine light, and he looked so domineering and unparalleled. Beneath his handsome and calm face, there was a domineering aura that could sweep through the heavens. This youth bathed in the golden divine light and rushed into the sacred prison alone, rushing to the 19th level of the sacred prison. At this moment, he was like a god of war, and he had issued an invitation to all of them to once again conquer the sacred boundary. When Jian Wuji saw this scene through the peach blossom plant pouch, his heart shook. He seemed to see a young, true dragon, swaying its dragon tail and sharpening its dragon claws. At this moment, it was preparing to break out of the darkness and fly into chaos. The birth of a true dragon is unstoppable. Jian Wuji sighed in amazement, and his heart trembled. "Master is so handsome." Bai Qianqian's face was filled with admiration from within the clear snow plant pouch. Her beautiful eyes bloomed, and her heart was like honey. At this time, all of the powerhouses in the 17 cells were young and old, male and female, and all of them had wonderful expressions. But there was one thing in common. Their weathered and dull eyes flashed with an intense fighting spirit. It was like a raging fire that burned through the world, unstoppable. Would they continue to wait in the sacred prison to wear down their will, or would they fight to the death and completely pierce through the sacred prison? Clang, clang, clang. The sound of heavy metal rang out. A supreme being in the cell stood up. His face was calm, and his eyebrows were straight. He looked like he was 30 years old, and his eyes burned with a monstrous fighting spirit. Sword Regent's Fongling greets the master. He bowed and cupped his fists, his tone firm and sincere. Another supreme stood up. His expression was as firm as a rock, and his facial features were chiseled. With a roar, the earth shook. Sword Regent's Lang Fanyan greets the master. It wasn't over yet. The beautiful woman was wearing a tattered red dress. Her delicate body was like a jade tree, and her body was shackled. She bowed slightly, and her eyebrows were slightly arched. Thousand Regions Fei Wushuang greets the master. Following that, 4, 5, 7, 10 people appeared. In the end, all of the supreme beings in the 19th level of the sacred prison stood up and bowed to Lin Shun as their master. Very good. This is the result I wanted to see the most. I hope you don't disappoint me. Lin Shun smiled meaningfully. He formed a seal with both hands and swiped it across the sky. Chi. The 9-killer seal on the supreme being's foreheads disappeared like smoke. It was completely wiped away. Boom, boom, boom. A terrifying aura, one that could overturn the ages and sweep through the primordial world, soared into the sky. All of the spirit chi in the entire 19th level of the sacred prison trembled. It was as if 17 vortexes had appeared out of nowhere. They swallowed the spirit chi from thousands of miles away and were instantly absorbed by the 17 supreme beings' sacred points. Clang, clang, clang. The 9 killer nails that were as thick as pillars bounced off from above the 17 cells and were sent flying. Ha! I Long Jioshan am out again. This time, even if I die, I will die on the way to escape. What a wonderful feeling. Is this the feeling of having power again? All the mighty figures were excited like children. Some were shouting excitedly. Some were in a daze, as if they were in a dream. Some cried tears of joy, and some let out hysterical roars and roars, as if they wanted to vent all the grievances they had accumulated over the years. Chapter 1359. Freedom. I'll be free one day. Damn it. Even if I die this time, I'll die a quick death. Ha ha. Awesome. Awesome. Even if I'm seriously injured, I'll kill those damn prison guards one by one. Killing one is enough. Killing two is a bloody profit. These bullish asterisk T9 karma nails have finally been pulled out. This is not just a little bit of satisfaction. The 9 karma nails were originally used to suppress all supreme beings. They could be used to reinforce the seal of the 9 karma seal. This was to prevent some supreme beings from hiding a backup plan. When they slowly removed or figured out a way to remove the seal, the 9 karma nails would become a huge mountain that continued to press down on the seal, not giving the seal the slightest chance to be lifted. But what the holy prison didn't expect was that someone would be able to directly remove their 9 karma seal. The reinforcement of the seal by the 9 karma nails was completely reduced to a joke. With the cultivation and arrogance of these supreme beings, if it was in the past, how could they easily submit to someone else? But they were already at the end of their rope, and even in their dreams, they wanted to leave the holy prison. The reason they didn't follow the demon tribe back then was because of the bottom line in their hearts. While the supreme beings were venting their frustrations, Lin Shun threw out a strange answer, instantly silencing the crowd. Everyone, please release your spiritual consciousness. I want to carve a spiritual imprint in your spiritual sea. Once this imprint is done, I could decide your life and death with a single thought. Once the spiritual imprint is formed, I'll immediately heal your injuries. This question caused a lively scene to instantly turn cold. Controlling another person's life was one of the most taboo things in the world, not to mention the mighty figures who had cultivated for so many years. The 17 people present, Even if their holy power had dried up and their battle strength was less than 100%, it would still be easy for them to kill a life and death realm warrior. It wasn't impossible for them to kill a star realm warrior. In the saint realm, the further one advanced, the more terrifying the gap was. However, the strange thing was that Lin Chun had not requested to leave his spiritual imprint before he had undone the Nine Killers seal, but after he had undone the seal. If he had made this request before he removed the seal, perhaps many people would have been willing to accept it. What did this mean? Did this mean that he had enough confidence to suppress each and every one of them? Even if the seal was removed, he wouldn't be afraid? Or was he testing them? Thousands of possibilities flashed through their minds. While the mighty figures were thinking rapidly, one of the azure-robed men said in a deep voice, "My lord, can I understand that you're testing and using us?" Lin Chun smiled indifferently. "You can put it that way. More accurately speaking, we're using each other. I can undo the 9 Kirin seals for you, and I can also heal a portion of your injuries. You will naturally become the capital and strength I need to break out of the holy prison. My lord, although we owe you a great debt of gratitude, controlling one's life and death is too difficult to bear." One of the twins was a handsome, middle-aged man. He had a dignified appearance, and his bearing was like that of a dragon or a tiger that could control the winds and clouds. He apologized to Lin Chun in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. As for his other twin brother, his gaze was sharp as he said in a deep voice, "Can I understand that if we didn't hand our spiritual life and death over to you, my lord, you wouldn't have healed us or even eliminated us completely?" As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere became even more strange and silent. However, to everyone's surprise, Lin Chun shook his head and laughed. "That's right. If you didn't hand your lives over to me, I would have healed all of you equally. If you want to leave, I won't stop you." Lin Chun's words struck all the mighty figures as if they had been struck by lightning. They were silent for a long time. After taking a deep look at Lin Chun, the Sword Domain's Lang Fanyan was the first to step forward. He cupped his fists and reported, "My lord, do it. I won't go back on my words. My life is yours now, Lin Chun." A faint spiritual glow emanated from between his brows. He had completely let go of his mind. "You're a man of your words." Lin Chun activated his spiritual power and formed a seal, activating the heavenly cycle seal of life and death that he had successfully cultivated 7 months ago. Buzz! A spiritual seal engraved with 8 different patterns melted like a drop of blood and merged into Lang Fanyan's spiritual sea. If Lang Fanyan resisted now, Lin Chun would suffer a spiritual backlash and be severely injured. However, Lang Fanyan didn't resist. Instead, he completely let go of his mind. The heavenly cycle seal of life and death was like a seal that had merged with the origin of one spirit. After it had completely merged, Lin Chun's spiritual sea, which was as vast as a galaxy, had an additional dim spiritual galaxy. That was Lang Fanyan's origin of one spirit. The two of them had formed a mysterious connection. Lang Fanyan could clearly sense Lin Chun's location and presence. Lin Chun, on the other hand, could make his spirit vanish with a single thought. Secondly, if the caster of the heavenly cycle seal of life and death were to fall, the one who was engraved would also be severely injured or even die. Haha, even an old friend like you is willing to go all out. There's no reason for me to be timid. The mighty figure of the sword domain, Feng Ling, also stepped forward and cupped his fists at Lin Chun. "My lord, let's do as we agreed." "All right, I admire people like you who don't say much." Lin Chun smiled and formed another heavenly cycle seal of life and death. "I can't fall behind either." Fei Wushuang from the Thousand Domains bowed and offered herself. Following that, the mighty figures looked at each other. Some were decisive, while others hesitated for a moment. Then, they gritted their teeth and stepped forward. All of them had placed their lives in Lin Chun's hands this time. Lin Chun's lips curled up slightly. When dealing with these mighty figures, it was useless to use petty tricks and schemes. Therefore, He had revealed his true strength from the very beginning. He had mobilized the might and power of the three-piece set of the god of war to completely subdue them. No matter where one was, strength was the most important factor to gain a foothold. Only the strength and potential that one displayed could completely subdue this group of mighty figures. If Lin Shun was only a talented young man with great potential, his speech earlier wouldn't have been able to move these monsters. To be able to cultivate to their level, which one of them wasn't a peerless monster or a peerless genius? If he didn't have enough strength, Lin Shun wouldn't have been able to gain their appreciation and loyalty. Hiding was useless. On the contrary, they had seen through Lin Shen's terrifying potential and strength, as well as the limitless possibilities in the future. That was why they had chosen to follow him. As for his character, there was no need to talk about it. Lin Shen's fighting spirit was strong, his state of mind was clear, and his entire body exuded an aura of a clear conscience. This kind of person couldn't possibly be an evil person. The mighty figures had seen through him long ago. To these 17 people, they had placed their lives in Lin Shen's hands. Half of it was because they were convinced by Lin Shen's potential, courage, and spirit. The other half was because they had staked everything on this one throw. They were betting on whether Lin Shen was worthy of becoming their lord. Chapter 1360. How terrifying. These almighties have really given their lives to this little guy. Jin Wuji shook his head and sighed. If this news were to spread, the entire sacred boundary would be shaken. These 17 people were people who had already touched that level. This group of almighties who were about to go crazy from being locked up in the sacred prison, together with the fearless Lin Shun, was just the beginning of the madness. In all fairness, even if Lin Shun released the 17 of them, the probability of them being able to fight their way out of the sacred prison was infinitely close to zero. The sacred prison's 19 levels were not to be trifled with. If they were at their peak, they would naturally not take them seriously. But now it was different. Their strength was less than 100%. To put it bluntly, among the 17 of them, many almighties were planning to die in this battle. Even if they could not fight their way out, they would at least drag a few of them down with them before they died. So, they were very open-minded. So what if they gave their lives in exchange for a good battle before they died? They would no longer be locked up in the prison in a daze. This life was enough. Very good. It seems that everyone is open-minded. Although I don't care much about life and death, I won't let my people die in vain. Our target this time is not the first level. As long as we reach the second level, I will have a special space passage. As long as we can fight our way back to the second level, I will be able to lead all of you out. Lin Shen's words stirred up a storm. There is a secret passage to leave the sacred prison on the second level. This news undoubtedly ignited the hope of all the almighties to be reborn. My lord, is what you said true? Fei Wushuang's eyes were filled with tears. She could not believe this fact. I have never lied to my own people. Let's restore the sacred power in the sacred cave first. Lin Shun waved his hand, and all the Providence plant pouches opened. The surrounding void was filled with golden light rain. It was all golden sacred origin coins. There were more than 1 million golden sacred origin coins piled up like a mountain in front of the 17 people. The most direct way to recover saint power in the saint cave was to absorb a large amount of golden saint origin coins. Lin Shen had already prepared for this. He had cultivated a large number of pseudo-middle-grade spirit plants in his Providence plant pouch. The gold Saint Yuan he produced had already surpassed the wealth of a 6th grade sect and was comparable to a 7th grade sect. This amount of gold Saint origin coins. It seems like the Lord came prepared. Ha ha, looks like we can have a good fight this time. The experts were overjoyed, and they quickly activated their dried Saint Cave, forming a vortex above their heads that sucked in a large amount of gold Saint Yuan coins into their Saint Cave. Among them, a white-haired young man and a purple-eyed young man looked at each other, and their hearts stirred. This immature and young lord could be said to be careless but meticulous. If they had refused to implant the spiritual imprint, they probably wouldn't have known that there was a spatial passage on the second level. At that time, only death awaited them. This kid could be said to be testing them at all times. It was as if he was warning them that trusting Lin Chun was the best choice. It was worth it to recognize this lord. Don't worry. With your wealth, this amount of golden Saint Origin coins is nothing. Lin Chun released Jian Wuji. Everyone looked at each other and couldn't help but be surprised. There was a life and death realm sword, saint following their lord. Senior Jian Wuji, I'll have to trouble you to protect us. Those prison guards may not be here so soon, but I'll leave the nearby demons to you. Lin Chun smiled. Jian Wuji waved his hand. Little guy, you're too polite. Just tell me this small thing. It's not worth your life-saving grace. Jian Wuji stepped on a sword light and instantly flashed thousands of miles away. His body released sword chi that shrouded the galaxy, protecting the 17 prisons. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Just as everyone was puzzled, the space fluctuated and dazzling red clouds rushed into the sky. Colorful lights surged, and a sacred ring covered the sky, stunning everyone. This is a divine pill? It's at least a 4th-grade divine pill. My lord, could it be? While the 17 people were ecstatic, Lin Chun said indifferently, I'm a 6th-grade Saint Origin alchemist. I came here for you from the beginning. I can only prepare so many pills. How much you can recover depends on you. 6th-grade Saint Origin alchemist? The expressions of the experts were extremely interesting. A 6th-grade Saint grade alchemist. This grade, when placed at their peak, didn't even have the qualifications to talk to them. But for a 20-year-old 6th-grade Saint Origin alchemist like their lord, it was simply beyond common sense. 6 illusory divine lights descended. When the 6 clones appeared beside Lin Chun, the experts were even more shocked. With the experience of the 17 experts, they had seen many cloning techniques, but they had never seen such a mysterious technique. It was exactly the same. From the blood to the bones to the spiritual fluctuations, it was perfect, just like the real body. If not for the heavenly cycle life and death imprint in their spiritual sea, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the clones and the real body. As expected of someone who dares to enter the 19 levels of the Saint prison alone, we seem to have found ourselves a great lord. Lang Fanyan licked his lips, his expression fiery and excited. Lin Chun smiled. Next, I'll use my clone's spiritual power to control the spiritual cycle of life and death imprint in your spiritual origin to help you refine the pills faster. The pills I prepared are at most 6th-grade pinnacle. There's not much time left. You can absorb the pills while recovering your saint power. After that, Lin Chun and his 6 clones formed a seal with their hands. Spiritual power swept across the 17 people like a huge wave. When it entered their spiritual sea, the hundreds of divine pills floating in the void flew into the bodies of different experts. The 17 people didn't seem to have many injuries on the surface. In fact, they were already riddled with holes. The higher the cultivation level of a saint, the harder it was for them to be injured. But at the same time, once they were injured, it would be extremely difficult for them to recover. This was also one of the reasons why the 6 great criminals who escaped back then became false gods in the Jojo continent. These healing divine pills were refined by Lin Chun using all the resources produced by pseudo-mid-grade spirit plants. In addition, Little Shadow had obtained some top-grade rare herbs from a Myriad Treasure's secret realm. In the past, with his spiritual power at the Saint Rudiment stage, he had to gather all of his clones' abilities to barely refine 6th-grade divine pills. However, after he collected a large number of alchemy manuals and outlines from the Pill Region's Elder Guild, his spiritual power had reached the Saint Rudiment stage. Moreover, he had the 8-pole Profound Saint Seal, which had been strengthened to plus 15. Compared to the alchemy foundation he had when he participated in the Heavenly Selection Convention, the current Lin Chun's alchemy skills were worlds apart. Chapter 1361. Now, Lin Shun could guarantee that each of his clones would have a 90% success rate in refining a 6th-grade sacred pill. To put it simply, one of Lin Chen's clones now had a stronger alchemy foundation than all of his clones that participated in the Chosen One convention back then. If all of his clones worked together to refine pills, there might not be any sacred pill among the 6th-grade sacred pills that Lin Shun could refine. 6 hours later, it seems like it's still a drop in the bucket. When Lin Shun saw the 17 people refining the healing holy pellets, he could clearly see the condition of their bodies with his psychic power. Not to mention recovering a little bit, they hadn't even recovered 1/10 of their original strength. However, more than half of the sacred pills had been consumed. 7 6th-grade sacred alchemists are still not enough for them. They have to be at least 7th grade, or even the legendary 8th grade. However, I don't even have the recipe for a sacred pill of this grade. It seems that this prison break is still going to be difficult. I don't know if the 8% 3-piece Aries set and the heaven-defying avatar can make it out. There's no turning back this time. Lin Chen's eyes shone with the determination to cut off all means of retreat and sink all boats. If he could kill his way out, he would truly become a big fatty after eating a mouthful. Although it was a double-edged sword, Lin Chen's foundation would increase countless times after subduing these 17 top powerhouses. At that time, even if the law enforcement team of the Genius List wanted to touch Lin Shun, they would have to think twice about the group of super fighters around him. Time continued to pass. The 17 mighty figures felt like they were in a dream. They were intoxicated. Being able to recover from their injuries was something they did not even dare to think about. On the other side, just as Lin Shun was unsealing the 17 mighty figures, on the first level of the sacred prison, a resplendent hall stood in the sky like an immovable ancient civilization. Numerous illusory images of saints walked in the void as if they had returned to the primordial era. Their holy might overflowed into the sky, and 9 sacred suns hung in the sky, blazing and extraordinary. In a secret chamber in the Sacred Sun Palace, a man in golden armor with a sun mark engraved on his forehead was cultivating with his eyes closed. His face was like jade, piercingly cold and holy. He was like an overlord who dominated a region, imposing without being angry. Suddenly, the man opened his eyes, and his murderous intent soared into the sky. Boom! A huge wave of yang flame shook the entire heavenly cycle, and the entire first level of the holy prison suddenly exploded, causing the space to tremble. Well, what's going on? It's in the direction of the Helm Master. What a terrifying aura. I've never seen a Helm Master so angry. Many prison guards trembled with fear. Once the prison master was enraged, he could sentence anyone to death, not to mention the Hell Master of the first level. When the Hell Masters of the lower 3 levels left, the Hell Master of the first level was the strongest existence. This was because the first level was the starting point of the Holy Purgatory, and also the last line of defense of the Holy Purgatory. The golden-armored man's figure flashed, and he stepped on a blazing sun. When he looked down at the void below, his eyes were filled with disbelief. What kind of joke is this? All 17 9 Carminales have been unsealed at the same time. That was a seal that was personally set up by the lords before they left. Could it be that there's a traitor in the holy prison? Whoosh! With a flip of his palm, a green jade token appeared in his hand. This was an emergency communication token exclusive to the Holy Purgatory. It was personally made by a 9th Revolution saint and had a limited number of uses. It could be used to cross multiple planes to contact all the Hell Masters. Attention, everyone. There's a drastic change on the 19th level. All the 9 Carminales have been unsealed. Be on your guard and close all the ascending passages. Guard the Holy Purgatory to the death. What's the situation on the 17th level? Could there be a mole among your people for such an important matter? For a moment, the entire Holy Purgatory exploded when they received the message. The last batch of monsters on the 19th level had been released. Reporting to Senior Zhao Tianyu, none of our people are missing. We'll head to the 19th level immediately. The calm voice of the Helm Master, who was temporarily guarding the 17th level, came from the emergency communication token. As soon as these words came out, Zhao Qianyu's heart sank instantly. If it wasn't a mole, then the situation might be even worse. Someone had sneaked into the holy purgatory? Impossible. This was the holy purgatory, an impregnable and eternal holy purgatory. Even if a holy king came, it was impossible for him to break in. Hell Master, the 16th level, listen up. I order you to immediately mobilize the main forces to support the 17th level. I also authorize you to have the highest authority of life and death. If there are any problems, you can execute them on behalf of me. Zhao Qianyu ordered that the highest authority of life and death would be given to the Helm Master, who represented the 16th level. He could even execute his own companions. This was a right that would only be passed on in the most critical situation of the holy purgatory. A group of guys who have been sent to hell and erased from history. You shameless dog want to get up? What can you do with your broken holy bodies? Zhao Tianyu sneered. Although his expression was solemn, it was far from the point of panic. History would not repeat itself. With his heaven-opening realm cultivation and all the Helm Masters, even if all the criminals rioted, they could suppress them. A seriously injured Holy Realm expert and a Holy Realm expert at their peak were two completely different things. On the 19th level of the Holy Purgatory, a faint golden light was faintly reflected in the dark void. Rumble. At this moment, a loud bang broke the silence. People had come from the 19th level of the Holy Purgatory. A total of 20 Holy Realm experts had entered the spatial vortex, expelled the demon Qi, and entered the 19th level. Quickly find out what's going on for me. Not good. The seals on the other side of the prison have all been unlocked. There's a battle. It's a sword saint and a group of demons. Many experts instantly sensed the situation on the 19th level, and their faces were filled with shock. Clang! A snow-white sword light slashed across the sky. When Jian Wuji killed a low-level holy demon king, his eyes narrowed. They're finally here. However, Lin Chen hasn't given the order yet. Even if I have to die, I have to stop them. Jian Wuji's holy qi transformed into a sword. He activated the supreme sword qi of the ninth heaven and slashed across the sky. Boom, boom, boom. The space rumbled, and the sword roared like a flying dragon. This person's aura is full. We don't have time to tangle with him. Let's deal with the situation below first. The temporary Helm Master of the 17th level shouted. All the Holy Realm experts' figures flashed, and they rushed toward the 17th level with all their might. I'll deal with you. A Star Realm prison guard with 61 holy points open grinned. He struck out with his claw, and the white death chi exploded like a star core, crushing Jian Wuji's strongest sword. Puchi! Bang! 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 The aftermath of the explosion caused Jian Wuji to retreat rapidly. Every step he took shook the space, and a muffled groan came from his throat. The other party was an entire realm higher than him, and it was extremely difficult to fight someone of a higher realm. You're only at the complete life and death realm, and you're not injured after taking a claw from me. Interesting. No matter where you come from, you dare to enter the holy purgatory? Die. The early star realm prison guard grinned. He stomped his foot and shuttled back and forth like a bolt of lightning. However, the moment he moved, a young man's cold voice shook the entire 19th level. Beat him hard. Jian Wuji's face lit up. It was Lin Chen's voice. Chapter 1362. Tai Xiaocheng, the temporary prison master of the 17th floor, had been the assistant of the prison master of the 16th floor. He had made great contributions and was promoted to the temporary prison master of the 17th floor. At this time, when Tai Xiaocheng led 18 powerhouses around Jian Wuji, he found a young and evil demon standing in front of the 17th floor. He had an evil smile on his face, and his white, jade-like face made him look like a genius of the human race. Tai Xiaoqing and the other powerhouses were shocked. Demon? A demon actually managed to sneak in. Damn it, I'll kill you first. The two Naxing realm prison guards were infuriated. Using their fingers as swords, they tore apart the void and pointed at Lin Shun like a flying dragon. Oh no, the 9 deadly nails in the prison are all gone. Tai Xiaoqing squinted his eyes and had a bad feeling. He waved his hand and was about to lead the team in a battle when ripples appeared in the space. They were like vortexes that twisted and twisted violently. Then, the two of them were crushed into pieces. Oh, Tai Xiaoqing, I haven't seen you for many years. You've also reached the Saint Heart realm. A cold chuckle echoed. 2 figures appeared beside Lin Shun, one on the left and one on the right. Sword realm, Fang Ling, knife realm, Lang Fanyun. Tai Xiaoqing was horrified when he saw the rare saint energy fluctuations coming from their saint acupoints. He reacted quickly and swallowed a medicinal pellet, stimulating his 71 saint acupoints to release even more terrifying saint energy. They had really broken out of the prison. Moreover, their saint acupoints had recovered a little. Even though they were seriously injured, they were still the most powerful powerhouses of the era. If they were careless, Tai Xiaoqing would be the one to die. Everyone, listen to my order. Fight to the death. We must hold on until the reinforcements from the 16th floor arrive. If we escape from here, we will face a punishment worse than death. Tai Xiaoqing and the others were ready. All their saint acupoints burst out with holy light, like stars rising slowly in the sky. All of them were super powerhouses of the Naxing realm. Their momentum was like a row of stars blocking in front of Lin Shun and the others. Their momentum was enough to crush countless low-level saints. The corners of their mouths rose with disdain. Lin Shun spread out his arms, transforming into an unparalleled demon king as he laughed loudly. From now on, beat him hard. Boom, boom, boom. In the darkness, 10 beams of holy light blossomed. It was as if the sun and moon had crossed the sky, and the mountains and rivers had been turned upside down. They had actually completely opened up the dark void of the 19th level. Figures with powerful auras walked out from the holy light. Some of them had picturesque facial features, and some of them were elegant and graceful. It was as if they had control over the mountains and rivers in their hands, and they were like overlords who were personally leading the troops in a battle. Or perhaps she was beautiful and flawless, revealing a peerless beauty with a sweet smile. Or perhaps he was standing tall like an abyss. When his eyes were closed, the phenomenon of 10,000 Buddhas worshipping their ancestors appeared, suppressing the group of demons. Or they had the back of a tiger and the waist of a bear. Their vitality was exuberant like a primordial remnant. As they breathed, it was as if a cosmic storm had descended. Streams of storm-like airflow crushed the void. Perhaps his transcendent appearance concealed a killing intent that had been suppressed for a long time. With a flip of his hand, it was as if 10,000 bolts of lightning had swept through the world. Every single move he made caused the world to tremble, the Grand Tao to rumble, and the weather to change. Tai Xiaoqing's pupils shrank slightly, and his heart trembled. Thousand Regions, Ethereal Scarlet Saint Fei Wushuang. Spirit Region, White Jade Fairy Shaoling. Battle Region, Primordial Revered Dragon, Long Jiushan. Blood Region, 100 Burial Elder, Ji Wuchen. Divine Secrets Pavilion's Strongest Fortune Teller, Jiang Taishu. Ice Region's 12 Dao Palaces, Zi Qianshou. Pill Region's Creation, Pill Saint Yu Wangsheng. Sky Sanctuary Region's Destruction, Twins Tianjin, and Earth Annihilation. Flame Region's Sky Burning Arrow, Saint Qi Fian. Yellow Region's War Maniac, Shangwan Wudi. They had come out. All of them had come out. Those existences that had been written into legends by countless saints and revered as legends had all come out. Apart from Tai Xiaoqing, all of the Nastar Realm prison guards were trembling in fear. They couldn't help but take a step back. Some of the weaker ones had even started foaming at the mouth and almost fainted from fear. They were so scared that they vomited. Nostar Realm cultivators were definitely not weak. Those who could become Nostar Realm experts were all people with great fortuitous opportunities, great perseverance, and great luck. If Lin Chun didn't use the three-piece Ares set, he wouldn't be able to defeat any of the Nostar Realm Saints in a one-on-one battle. However, the opponents that this group of prison guards were facing were simply not on the same level. At their peak, any one of these people could kill all of the prison guards with a flip of their hand, even if they were heavily injured and had less than 100% of their strength left. A fierce tiger was still a fierce tiger. How could they be challenged by ants? Boom! A ray of sword light split the darkness. Fong Ling and Lang Fanyun took the initiative to move. If there's a fight, then charge as fast as you can. Leave some opponents for me. Long Jioshan's laughter shook the wind and thunder. He stepped on the void and shattered thousands of miles of space. It was as if the stars were moving as he charged toward all of the prison guards. Fei Wushuang and Xiao Ling looked at each other. Their clear figures flashed and entered the sky like a white rainbow. Tai Xiaocheng bit the tip of his tongue and braced himself to lead everyone to meet the enemy head-on. A great battle instantly broke out. Jiang Taishu, who was dressed in linen clothes, sat down and held a jade cup in his hand. He poured the freshly warmed, fragrant tea and laughed. Fortunately, my lord brought a lot of good stuff. I haven't tasted tea in 1,000 years, and I miss it very much. As the tea fragrance filled the air, Jiang Taishu tasted it and smiled faintly. He said telepathically, "After 2 breaths, the 2 in the east will counterattack before they die. Brother Long Jioshan, take it easy. It's not good to get injured again." After 1 breath, Tai Xiaocheng will burn his saint acupoints and fight with his life. Sir Lang Fanyun, don't be too aggressive. After all, you have a saint heart. Give him some face. After 3 breaths, the 4 in the south will activate the life-risking array at the same time. They will inject their essence blood with a specific blue Yin treasure chi to temporarily increase their Saint Acupoint's power. I hope Fairy Bayou and Fei Sheng can hold them back and play a slightly protracted battle. After the telepathic message ended, Jiang Taishu's words hit the nail on the head. He had a perfect understanding of the entire battle without any mistakes. His old eyes flickered with an extremely sharp light. They were deep and long, and he looked at the faraway and deeper mysteries. Lin Chun was in awe. This was a battle between saints at the pinnacle. It was a one-sided battle on a completely different level. In all fairness, his 17 servants had just recovered their cultivations, and they were far from the Saint Heart realm, not to mention that they were dragging their heavily injured bodies. Their pure combat strength could barely reach the level of the Star Reception realm. Even so, Lin Chun had not activated everyone's strength. He had let them fight against him with numbers, and they were still able to fight a one-sided battle. The same strength in the hands of people of different realms could unleash completely different powers. However, when Jiang Taishu looked at Lin Chun, he was even more mysterious and dignified. He saw a possibility that was even more distant. A group of arrogant and powerful tigers were not scary. They were solitary and did not ask for each other's help. All experts were like that. What was scary was that this group of tigers had a leader. When the leaders carried out a joint operation, there would be an unprecedented threat. Not to mention, this was not just a group of tigers. This was a group of real legendary monsters. The Battle of the Saint Prison had begun. Chapter 1363. If it was in the past, the possibility of a perfect alliance would never exist. Even if these 17 people were released, they would at most fight for themselves. They would never deliberately cooperate and accommodate someone for some purpose. But now, there was a master in charge of their life and death. What was once impossible would become possible. A master who can't see through fate. I'm really looking forward to the next history. Haha, if I can survive, it will be very interesting to see it in the future. A rare trace of excitement flashed in Jiang Taishu's eyes. Jiang Taishu retracted his gaze and drank a cup. Then, he poured another cup and smiled faintly. After one breath, the 4 prison guards in the southwest will be exhausted. I'll have to trouble Tianjin and Demia to clean up the mess. As soon as he finished speaking, Qi ripped the horizontal line of the void pulled apart, one white and one purple saber light. It hit the necks of the 4 prison guards who were trying their best. It was a clean cut in an instant. After the white-haired youth, Tianjin, and the purple-eyed youth, Demia, succeeded, they immediately hid in the void and killed their opponents like the best assassins. They didn't hesitate or show any flaws. After 3 breaths, the enemies will fall into the first round of exhaustion. Your Excellency Zi Qianshou, I'll leave it to you. While Jiang Taishi was talking and laughing, Zi Qianshou, the handsome young man in embroidered robes, appeared in the sky. With a twist of his palm, 5 Taoist palaces descended from the sky. When they were released, it was as if 5 ancient ruins had suddenly descended and surrounded everyone. Focus fire. Tai Xiaoqing has a backup plan. Intercept him in the southwest. Boom, boom, boom. The entire 19th level of the Saint Prison was turned upside down. Lin Chen retreated again and again under Yu Wangsheng's protection. It was only a matter of time before he won this battle. Wangsheng, go support Senior Jian Wuji first. Lin Chen ordered. The creation pill saint, Yu Wangsheng, nodded and smiled. My lord, no problem. After speaking, Yu Wangsheng turned into a stream of light and teleported into the sky. On the other side, Jian Wuji used all his strength to fight a star-receiving realm expert with his complete life and death realm cultivation base. Although his cultivation base was inferior, his fighting spirit didn't decrease at all. He was like a desperate man, fighting with his life on the line. Haha, this is great. Too delightful. It's been a long time since I've had such a delightful battle. Come, it's just a life. Why are you so scared? Lord Prison Guard, is a star-receiving expert afraid of a life and death expert like me? Jian Wuji's sword went straight for his opponent's vitals. He gave up on defense and attacked from all sides. For a moment, the star receiver cultivator was both irritable and berserk. Buzz! A wave of spiritual energy suddenly descended and enveloped the prison keeper like a storm that swept through the sun and moon. Not good. Just as the other party was about to retreat, the mental storm emitted waves of soul-stirring mental attacks, subverting his mental consciousness. The moment there was a gap, Jian Wuji's sword slashed over. Puffed. When the tip of the sword condensed from holy power pierced through the prison guard's chest, he barely managed to break free from the control of the spiritual storm. He pushed Jian Wuji back with a palm and dived into the void. However, a palm suddenly passed through the void and silently slapped the top of his head. Smack! Crack, crack! When the top of his head was shattered, his holy acupoint disappeared along with it. However, the cultivation of the Na-Xing state seemed to be extremely powerful. The rapidly expanding holy acupoint was about to forcibly explode and drag him down with it. Rip! The blade flashed past, and the prison guard's head was separated from his body. His holy acupoint was sealed, and he couldn't even self-destruct before he died. Tianjin and Earth Annihilation's figures appeared in the void. The prison guard died with his eyes open and muttered to himself. How is this possible? Could it be that Brother Tai Xiaoqing and the others were defeated so quickly? When he fell, a large number of attribute light balls dropped. When Lin Shun cleaned up the battlefield, he collected all of them. His attribute points welcomed a wave of unprecedented surge. Although he didn't kill them with his own hands, the attribute light balls dropped by the fallen Na-Xing state powerhouses were of extremely high quality. The prison guards weren't half-dead saints like the criminals in the holy penitentiary who had no holy power. They were at the peak of the Na-Xing state and above. Lin Shin couldn't ask the 17 servants to severely injure them and give him their heads so that he could gain more attribute points. The Na-Xing state saints weren't to be trifled with. In the current situation, the 17 servants were still severely injured, and not even 1/10 of their injuries had recovered. Forcefully controlling them was 10 times more difficult than defeating them without injury. What Lin Shan wanted now was to break out of the encirclement. There was no need to put everyone in danger for attribute points. Is everyone here? Lin Shan asked as he looked around. Fortunately, we didn't disappoint. No one was injured in the battle. When Jiang Taishu led everyone out, he shook his head and said regretfully, "It's a pity that Tai Xiaoqing escaped. A St. Heart State powerhouse won't die so easily. My lord, should we continue to pursue?" Lin Chun waved his hand. "There's no time to care about him. The battle is coming. I still have some golden Saint Origin coins on hand. It's enough to support you all to fight your way out. By the way, my lord, this..." Jiang Taishu very loyally handed over all the Providence plant pouches after the prison guards' deaths to Lin Chun. There were a total of 20 Providence plant pouches, which were extremely rich. Good stuff. Lin Chun opened the Providence plant pouches, and his eyes lit up. There were more than a dozen 5th-grade sacred artifacts and 3 6th-grade sacred artifacts in these Providence plant pouches, as well as a large amount of golden Saint Origin coins. To Lin Chun and the others, this was timely help. System, decompose all of them. Consumed 12, 3 million Heaven's Path points. Decomposed 19 5th-grade sacred artifacts and 3 6th-grade sacred artifacts. Obtained 960,000, 290,000, 1,020,000. Lin Chun decomposed all of them and obtained the set essence attribute points. Then, he threw the Providence plant pouches to everyone and said, "I've added another batch of golden Saint Origin coins. Absorb them as we move forward." Lin Chun raised his head. His devilish eyes stared at the demonic chi whirlpool in the air as he laughed evilly. "Let's go and fight our way up to the 18th level. I want to play big and let the madness be more thorough. I want to release all the people on the 18th level." Everyone's expression changed. They looked at each other and became more and more excited. The 18th level, many of their old friends were there. Their lord was going to start an all-out war with the holy prison. Damn it, we've just come out, and we've already encountered such a big battle. This is so satisfying. My lord's character is to my liking. He's sharp and full of vigor. I like it. F***CK, the holy prison. I've been holding it in for most of my life. Damn it. Roar. A group of aggressive elites descended from the space tunnel on the 17th level of the holy prison. The leader of the prison overlords, Pan Yunlong, was a cold man who looked like he was in his 40s. His cold and emotionless face made him look like a hero of a generation. He was impartial and cold. His murderous aura was monstrous. It was as if he had killed countless saints and demon kings. It was almost tangible. Wherever he walked, gray snowflakes floated in the void. This was a true pinnacle Saint Heart expert who had opened 80 saint points. This group of people was completely different from the ones who were temporarily stationed on the 17th level. There were a total of 21 of them, and each of them was terrifyingly powerful. Chapter 1364. Then, the emergency communication token in Pan Yunlong's arms lit up. Before Pan Yunlong took action, he immediately took out the emergency communication token. "Boss Pan, we failed to stop them. All of us have been wiped out. I'm only half alive. You must be careful. All the monsters on the 19th floor have been released by a young demon." Tai Xiaoqing's panting voice came from the communication token, which made Pan Yunlong and his team tense up instantly. All of them were wiped out. That was a team of 19 nascent stars. In terms of combat power, they were above average in the Holy Dungeon. What the Holy Dungeon didn't expect was, originally, Tai Xiaoqing's team could completely suppress the 17 mighty figures. However, what they didn't expect was that the 17 mighty figures' injuries would heal slightly, and even their holy points would recover some saint power. This was completely unexpected. If they had just been released from prison and had no resources, even if the 17 mighty figures were given a month to accumulate power, the prison guards could still suppress this sudden situation. What was even more frightening was their flawless cooperation and unprecedented teamwork. This group of people who were as arrogant as the heavens had never acted as one before. Back then, each of them was a peerless genius and saint talent in their respective fields. If they worked together, whether it was attacking, predicting, exhausting, defending, assassinating, and so on, they could perfectly coordinate into an unprecedented team. It seems that things are a bit serious. We can't delay any longer. Everyone, listen up. Go to the 18th floor at full speed. Set up the formation, take out all your assets, and fight with them with real swords and spears. Pan Yunlong's eyes seemed to have ancient fiendish dragons rolling, and his hostility was monstrous. I like to see how a group of people with one foot in the door of hell are qualified to break out of prison from my hands. The 18th floor was filled with ghastly energy, and it was like eternal silence and darkness. Bang! A prison door suspended in the void was blasted away, and a spirited old man in tattered clothes with his hands behind his back walked in. His eyes were like pearls, and his Saint Chi was illusory. It was the creation pill saint, Yu Wangsheng. Wangsheng, you actually came out of the 19th floor? In the prison, an old man in shackles in his twilight years had a fierce look in his eyes. When he saw the newcomer, he was full of disbelief. Old friend, long time no see. How have you been? Yu Wangsheng smiled, and then said seriously, do you want to join forces and fight Holy Prison? The old man in his twilight years was stunned. Fight with Holy Jail? In the west, 2 prison doors were broken. In front of Fong Ling stood 2 white-haired youths. Although they looked young, their hair was as white as snow, and their hearts were old. Only the saintly body was faintly surrounded by an ancient sword aura. It was as if there were many sword steels standing there, triggering an immortal and eternal sword aura. Jian Wuji, who was standing behind Fong Ling, narrowed his eyes. Fong Ling's name was too old. The traces of history had long been sealed off by the giant sections. He, Jian Wuji, never had the chance to hear about it. However, these 2 people before him were renowned throughout the sword domain all those years ago. The possessors of the eternal sword body, Lu Dingtian and Lu Yangtian. At their peak, the 2 of them had been 9th heaven true saints, heaven-opening realm super sword sages. A single finger could sever the sun, moon, and stars, and a single sword could shatter the 9 heavens. Another 2 great figures. The 2 of them looked at each other, their faces filled with shock and doubt. They said in disbelief, Senior Fong Ling, how did you get out? Naturally, I had a great opportunity. Ha ha ha. Fong Ling laughed. How about it? Do you want to follow my master and overturn the holy jail with me? Master? Lu Dingtian and Lu Yangtian were both shocked. What was Fong Ling's identity and cultivation? In the entire sword domain, there were very few who could match him. He was one of the people who had been closest to the sword Tao, connecting God. What kind of person was able to subdue it and make it recognize him as its master? A sage king or a true god? It's fine if you don't want to team up with me. At most, you can move freely. However, I can tell you that we control the secret passageway. If you entrust your lives to us, you will have a chance to live. If you fight alone, you will at most drag someone down with you. Fong Ling smiled coldly. Everyone on the 19th level of the holy jail will follow me. You can decide whether you want to leave or stay. The 2 of them twitched their mouths. What was going on? All the powerful figures on the 19th level had acknowledged him as their master. Haha, these 2 must be the geniuses of the eternal sword body. It's an honor to meet you. 2 old figures walked over in the air. Jian Wuji's pupils trembled. The old man next to Yu Wangsheng was another big shot. He was an 8th grade saint weapon forging master, Jin Wuxia, who was known as the reverse weapon forging grandmaster. The creation elixir saint is here, too. Lu Yangtian and Lu Dingtian understood when they saw this lineup. If they did not fight now, when would they? Lin Shen flew into the 18th level of the holy jail. Suddenly, a hoarse and magnetic voice called out to him. Hey, you're the master they're talking about, right? In the highest prison on the 18th level, a little girl with long black hair was wearing tattered clothes. Her skin was white as snow, and she wore a large handcuff that did not match her clothes. A dim light of the 9-killer seal appeared between her snow-white eyebrows. Her long hair covered her face and trailed on the ground. Beneath her hair, her long and soft eyelashes fluttered a pair of bright and spirited eyes. Lin Chun was shocked. He was now under the protection of Little Shadow, which eliminated his aura. How could this little girl discover him? What was even more terrifying was that the sealing power of her 9-killer seal was slowly weakening, as if her seal was being corroded by a powerful force. You are not a demon, right? Demons can't subdue them. Hee. Let me out, and I will help you kill them. How about it? The little girl lifted her bangs with her slender hand, revealing her eyebrows that were like jade clouds and slanted moons. Her petite and exquisite appearance revealed a different kind of charm. She licked her red lips and said, "Help me break the seal, and I will kill 1,000,000 saints for you. How about it?" Whoosh! The white-clothed fairy white jade, Xiaoling, relied on the heavenly cycle death seal to sense Lin Chen's location. She instantly rushed over and protected Lin Chen's side. "My lord, this is a human-shaped calamity. You can't release it easily." Even someone like Xiaoling was on guard against this little girl. It could be seen how terrifying she was. Lin Chun removed his concealment, and Little Shadow floated on his shoulder. He suddenly smiled and said, "What is your name?" "Me? I have forgotten my name. I have been alone since I was born." The little girl smiled coldly. "They call me the Calamity of Pain." Boom, boom, boom. Space shook. The space in the 18th level of the Saint Prison shook violently. Waves of aura that wanted to tear the sky descended from above. 21 pillars of light descended from the sky. Pan Yunlong stood alone in front. His eyes seemed to contain thousands of rays of light as he swept past. When the 21 people's expressions descended, it was extremely interesting. All empty. The 41 prisons in the 18th level of the Saint Prison were all empty. A great war was about to break out. Chapter 1365. The 17th, 18th, and 19th levels of the Holy Prison had been completely destroyed by Luo Yao in the past. Even now, they were still unable to be fully restored. The criminals who were taken away back then had all become subordinates of the demonic race. Those who remained were all experts who disdained to associate themselves with the demonic race. Now, the 18th and 19th levels had been completely released. Even so, Pan Yunlong still stood at the front, his aura suppressing everyone as he looked down on the world. His eyes were as sharp as swords. With a single glance, he could see through thousands of miles of space and quickly scan the entire vast space of the 18th level. Pan Yunlong was once ranked as the 10th assassin of the Heavenly Saint Domain. When he became famous, he had killed tens of millions of demons and hundreds of thousands of saints. He was a peerless monster with a notorious reputation. Even the 8th grade sects did not dare to provoke him. He was the strongest expert below the main force of the Holy Prison, a super expert with half a foot in the heaven-opening realm. He was the strongest existence apart from the forces guarding the first level. Pan Yunlong, stop looking. If this old man wanted to hide, would you be able to find me? Jiang Taishu's laughter spread throughout the 18th level. This voice, it's Jiang Taishu. This old monster has also been released. The two Saint Heart experts beside Pan Yunlong frowned. The worst-case scenario had still happened. In a battle, the last thing one wanted to face was a powerful diviner. A powerful diviner, with a powerful helper, could control the entire battle. Jiang Taishu, don't play tricks. If you were at your peak, this seat would immediately give way. But now, you're just a crippled person. If you want to escape, you can only forcefully break through the space channel of the upper level. With this seat guarding here, let's see who dares to show themselves. Pan Yunlong's shoulders shook, and his saint acupoints turned into clouds, dragons, and tigers. Strange phenomena appeared, and rays of holy light covered millions of miles. It was as if the ruins of an ancient civilization had descended covering the entire area. Even the 10 Saint Heart experts behind Pan, Yun, Long stepped out and guarded the 18th level of the holy prison, illuminating it with holy light for millions of miles. Even many of the low-level Demon King legions that had just arrived melted in the boundless holy light in an instant. The 10 guards at the peak of the nascent star realm were ready for battle. They either held high-grade saint artifacts, consumed medicinal pills, or utilized secret techniques that concealed themselves from the world to increase their strength on the spot. It could be said that they'd utilized all their trump cards without restraint. This marshal is leading the team. Do they still need to play tricks? As ridiculing laughter resounded, strands of divine might that could split the heavens and the earth apart swept through the world, and they actually went against the prison keepers as equals. Bathing in the endless holy light, dozens of figures neatly stepped out of a dark path. This group. Some of them were not to the heavens, and were not to the heavens peerless, like a peerless spear. Some of them were silent, and when they opened and closed their eyes, there seemed to be electric arcs running across their eyes. Their bodies were even surrounded by blue clouds of saint power that were flickering and disappearing. Some of them were chic, and their saint acupoints were whistling with endless sonic booms. It was as if a saint acupoint was hiding a world-destroying storm. Some of them were as vigorous as the 8-armed demon dragon. Countless illusions of True Ho, Qilin, Azure Dragon, and other primordial strange beasts appeared around their bodies. Some of them were awe-inspiring, and their physiques contained mountains, rivers, sun, and moon. 5-colored clouds covered their heads, piling up thousands of mountains and rivers. It was as if a heavenly lord had descended to the world, personally leading an expedition. Some of them had 9 blazing suns hanging behind them. Golden flames burned the sky, and the sun flames were like a sea of fire, engulfing the entire world. Some of them were sharp, and when their hands were empty, it was as if thousands of swords had appeared. Their sharpness was unparalleled in the world. Some of them were sharp, and with their hands crossed in front of their chests, they cut through the void great Tao and divided the heavens. They caused the supreme saber chi to shine and buzz. Some of them were elegant, and white clouds floated in the sky. Silver splendor sprinkled across the sky like snow. Their peerless beauty revealed a beautiful yet cold, killing intent. Some of them were sage-like, and they talked and laughed like ordinary old men. However, their brows occasionally flashed with absolute confidence. It would be difficult to find a second team like this in the sacred boundary. They were all in the saint realm, and they were extraordinary existences. All the prison guards unconsciously swallowed their saliva. Although they were not as easily intimidated as Tai Xiaoqing's team, fighting with this group of people was still a shock to their mental state. One had to know that the criminals below the 17th floor were never in their territory. However, at this moment, this group of people were like stars supporting the moon. They served as a contrast to the evil youth in front of them. His eyes were overflowing with devil chi, and he was evil and sinister. Are you really from the demon race? How can the demon race break my holy hell 9 killer's seal? While Pan Yunlong was surprised, he sneered and said why. The proud and unyielding people of the past have finally knelt down and become dogged for the demon race. Ha ha ha. Pan Yunlong, don't use this to provoke us. We know better than you. Sword chi surged all over Lang Fanyun's body, and his smile was as powerful as wind and thunder. Fong Ling was aggressive, and he said sternly, "Why are you talking nonsense with him? Kill them all. Everyone, listen my orders. Our goal is to break through the 18th floor of the holy hell and kill our way up. Not a single one of you should die. Survive for me." Lin Chen hollered. Everyone's silhouettes flickered as they all moved out. "Demons and monsters, I'll destroy you first." A Saint Heart expert sneered and clenched his fist toward Lin Chen. The swirling saint force was like dozens of Yinshi hurricanes. Lu Ding Tian and Lu Yang Tian, one on the left and one on the right, flashed to the space in front of Lin Chen. Their palms flipped and slapped, and the eternal sword body's sharpness shot out like a spinning top, shaking the world and cutting through the void. Chi! Bang! 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 Both of them retreated at the same time, and a trace of gloominess flashed past their brows. Being injured was troublesome. Even a Saint-Heart expert could beat them back. Ha ha! You want to touch our master? You're nothing. Long Jioshan's bloodline was activated, and his laughter was like thunder. He transformed into a half-dragon state, raised his hand, and a huge dragon claw crushed mountains and rivers. He slapped the heads of the prison guards angrily and tore apart layers of saint light. Xiaoling, and Fei Wuxuang worked together. Fei Wuxuang's crimson saint force turned into a saint bow. Xiaoling, drew the bow and arrow, and the arrow broke through thousands of miles, splitting the sky. Stepping on the heavenly river of sabers and swords, wherever they passed, it was as if two peerless blades had swept across the horizon, forcing a Saint-Heart realm expert to take action. Just as he was about to block the two of them, a flash of light flashed past the void, causing the Saint-Heart realm expert's hair to stand on end. Annihilation of heaven and earth? Not good, double dragon dive. That Saint-Heart expert reacted very quickly. He wiped his palm, and a faint blue brilliance wrapped around his body like a dense water dragon. The aqua blue saint light barrier instantly condensed into a barrier. Clang! Clang! The double dragon barrier blocked the sneak attack of Tian Xing and Dimia. Although he didn't suffer any substantial injuries, that Saint-Heart prison guard broke out in cold sweat. Chapter 1366. After hundreds of thousands of years, the Saint-Heart realm cultivator once again felt the fear of death from the previous moment. It was too terrifying. Heaven and earth were destroyed. These two were indeed the infamous super-demonic assassins of the heavenly sanctuary. When they killed saints, they were silent and perfectly hidden. One wrong move, and they would die. If they were not injured and their speed was less than 1,000th of their peak, they would have been beheaded. I'm still not used to it. This is a special time. Just bear with it. The two of them hid in the darkness. For peak assassins, the difference between success and failure was often only a split second. They would either kill their opponents or be exposed and die. If they did not succeed in one strike, the operation just now could be considered a failure for the two of them. In all directions, in the 18 levels of the Saint Prison, the sky was filled with chaotic battle rings. Boom, boom, rumble. The entire 18th level of the Saint Prison, no, it should be the 16th level and below, trembled violently, the sky changed color, and the plane was turned upside down. This unprecedented battle had only taken place in a short period of time, but the entire 18th level of the Holy Penitentiary had been turned upside down by the two sides. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 8 streams of light, like flowers falling from the sky, surrounded Pan Yunlong, who was about to make a move. They were Creation Pill, Saint Yu Wangsheng, Elder 100 Burial Ji Wuchen, Zi Qianshou of the 12 Dao Palaces, Qi Fian of the Burning Sky Arrow Saint, Shangwan Wudi of Zhan Quang, Fong Ling of Sword Domain, Lang Fanyan of Knife Domain, and Jiang Taishu himself. Pan Yunlong had opened 80 Saint Acupoints and was at the peak of the Saint-Heart realm. If he opened another Saint Acupoint, he would be in the Heaven Opening realm. If he was at his peak, even the experts on the 18th level would not be afraid of him, let alone them. But now their Saint Acupoints were limited and they were all heavily injured. If they fought him alone, no one would be his match. If they wanted to retreat without being injured, they would have to send out their strongest forces. You can't run away. Pan Yunlong suddenly smiled and clenched his fist. A saber with flowing clouds appeared in his hand. The saber was 8 feet long, and it cut through the clouds. Southwest, retreat 3,000 miles. Almost at the same time that Pan Yunlong pulled out his saber, Jiang Taishu sent a telepathic message to the 7 of them. Everyone flashed in the same direction, barely dodging the saber. Facing Pan Yunlong, Jiang Taishu was no longer as relaxed as before. Instead, He was more solemn and serious. Zhang Yu deducing opponents with higher cultivation meant that he had to pay a greater price. Jiang Taishu's divination ability? I like to see how many times you can predict. Pan Yun Long stomped his feet, and 100 Zhang long cloud dragon spread out from his crotch. It was very lifelike, and its dragon aura was vast and mighty. Waves of dragon roars could be heard from thousands of miles away. Wave after wave of saber strikes were launched, and the white light was as bright as the stars in the sky, slashing towards the 8 people. You're not qualified to play with blades. Lang Fanyan sneered. His fingertip continued to swipe horizontally, breaking his saber light time and time again. However, his opponent's aura was becoming increasingly ferocious. Fong Ling's holy power transformed into a sword. He gripped it in the air, raised it high above his head, and slashed down, cleaving apart the great Tao. Back off! Don't forget my lord's order. As Chief Fian's rough voice bellowed, an arrow burning with rolling holy flames shot towards them from the horizon. The apocalyptic, terrifying pressure came from afar, as if the arrow was going to shatter heaven and earth. Die! Pan Yun Long drew his saber and slashed diagonally, splitting the layers of illusory images of the Azure Dragon. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws, tearing the menacing arrow light apart. Why don't you play with me? As the strange laughter reverberated, the sea of blood in the sky churned. A crimson hand reached out from the sea of blood and crushed Pan Yun Long's fatal saber strike. The lingering aura was destroyed and dispersed. Before Pan Yun Long could return the favor to Elder 100 Burial, Ji Wuchen, an astonishingly huge red bull stomped across the sky, causing heaven and earth to tremble as it pushed the sun, moon, and stars away. Yu Weixing spread his arms, and an azure spiritual net that contained everything in the world enveloped Pan Yun Long's position. The earth-shattering battle was in full swing. The battle circle where Pan Yun Long was, it became the scariest area of the battle. No one dared to go near him. Although the 8 mighty beings could hold him back, they could not do anything to Pan Yun Long. In reality, their recovered cultivation base was only around the level of Naxing. If it weren't for Jiang Taishu's high attainments in various fields, his understanding of each realm, his accumulated combat experience, and Jiang Taishu's ability to deduce the direction of the battle, he would have been able to hold Pan Yun Long back. If it were any other Nastar realm team, it would be impossible for them to do better than them. There's too little time to recover. Although we have a lot of people on our side, everyone is severely injured to the point of near death. It's not obvious on the surface, but once they're injured, it's like a taut string that could snap in an instant. If it weren't for my order, they would have started fighting with their lives on the line. Lin Shun understood the entire battle's trend with a single glance. The current situation seemed to be evenly matched. If they forced a bloody battle, they would have a chance to tear open a gap and approach the spatial passage of the 18th level. However, the problem was that there would be deaths, and not just 1 or 2 of them. Everyone on the 18th level of the Holy Penitentiary has surrendered to me and given their lives to me. Since that's the case, I can't let anything happen to them. Let me tear open this gap. It just so happens that my 3-piece God of War set has been brewing for a long time. Lin Shun aimed at a Naxing cultivator at the peak of Naxing, flashing with a monstrous battle intent. A Naxing cultivator at the peak of Naxing was once a lofty giant who could crush him with a single finger. But now, he had to defeat a Naxing cultivator to break the stalemate. Lin Shun constantly activated the demonic seal in his palm, making his disguise more realistic so that he would not reveal any flaws when he made his next move. As the demonic aura rose, 2 giant horns grew out, and a giant red tail swayed out of his back. He looked more and more like a peerless giant demon. What was more frightening was that Lin Shen's pure strength had begun to soar. 10 trillion dragon power, 15 trillion dragon power, 20 trillion dragon power, and it continued to soar. Lin Shen had finally activated the 3-piece God of War set. His strength soared in a straight line, breaking through 40 trillion dragon power. Once, he had broken the spatial barrier of the myriad treasures' secret realm with 10 trillion dragon power and defeated the clear sky holy king's possessed body. Now, his pure strength had reached the threshold of 70 trillion dragon power, and it was still rising. Bang! Lin Shen stepped into the void, and like a flash of divine light, he activated his pure strength at full speed. Wounded, back off. Let me do it. Lin Shen shouted at Jin Wuxia, who was fighting fiercely. When Jin Wuxia was subconsciously ordered to back off, he was shocked again. My lord, how can we put you in danger? Lu Dingtian and Lu Yantian shouted at the same time, and their voices spread across the battlefield. Protect the lord. Chi. Bang. Rumble. A terrifying explosion echoed between heaven and earth. The light between heaven and earth dimmed for an instant. The Naxing cultivator, who was fighting against several people alone, spat out blood and fell down. Everyone was dumbfounded. Protect the Lord? This is too fierce. The Lord still needs protection. Chapter 1367. If they were not in the middle of a fierce battle, their jaws would have dropped to the ground, defeating someone at the peak of the Naxing realm with one punch. What did that mean? Everyone more or less knew about Lin Shen's background. Their lord was only in his early 20s, and his cultivation level was around the 3rd level of the Sage realm. Even if he had a better foundation in the spirit realm and the body refining realm compared to the Naxing realm, the difference was like heaven and earth. Defeating someone at the peak of the 7th level of the Sage realm, where the F*CK did this monster come from? He had not even reached the Aperture Expansion realm. Any other genius on the Demon Genius list who had not reached the Aperture Expansion realm would not be able to do that. I've been called a freak for thousands of years. Today, I finally know what a real freak is after seeing our Lord's heroic appearance. Compared to our Lord, I'm afraid we are not even 1% of him. We did not follow the wrong person. I was still around when we were at the same age as our Lord. After defeating someone at the peak of the Naxing realm with one punch, Lin Shen's aura was like a rainbow, and his demonic chi was overwhelming, sealing his war god aura. The 3-piece war god aura was too unique, and it was very distinguishable. Lin Shen had to disguise himself as a primordial giant demon who relied only on strength. A body-refining demon. Pan Yunlong's pupils trembled, and then he suddenly transmitted a message to everyone. Block him. Don't let him get close to the space tunnel. Don't let these people get close to our Lord. Open a path for our Lord. Follow the original plan. Jiang Taishu transmitted a message to everyone, and everyone's battle began to surround Lin Shen to open a path for him. The atmosphere quietly changed. Host has received 1,201 billion high-grade chi and blood, 1,230 billion high-grade essence, 1 million high-grade thunder energy. Lin Shen casually collected a large amount of attribute points dropped by his opponent, and his figure flashed like lightning, breaking through the heavy encirclement. Every plane in the holy prison was created by a different Saint King and reinforced by a supreme, true God. If one wanted to leave this place, the only way was to create a space tunnel. Other than that, no matter how much space was torn, it was impossible to jump out of the holy prison. There was only one space tunnel, and that was the space door leading upwards. Regardless of whether it was by force or by opening the space tunnel, only by opening the space tunnel leading upwards could one proceed to the next level. Luo Yao only gave Lin Shen the space seal to open the lower levels. She didn't give Lin Shen the space seal to return because she had directly used it after entering the lowest level of the hidden sacred prison. She didn't need any follow-up methods. Be careful, my lord. When Jin Wuxiao saw that Lin Shen was attacking in front of him, he knew that things were not looking good for him. He quickly followed behind Lin Shen and gathered the remaining saint energy in his saint acupoints. turning them into golden rays. The indestructible Gungjin Saint Chi surrounded Lin Chun like dragons, protecting him from harm. TSK. TSK. A giant energy palm tore through the air, tearing apart Jin Wuxia's Gungjin Saint Chi, and the sky dimmed in an instant. Do you really think you're the savior of the world? A cold sneer sounded, and a man in a snow-white robe blocked Lin Chen's way. His aura was as majestic as an ancient giant Buddha descending, causing the surrounding space to tremble. Boom, boom, boom. Behind Lin Chun, tens of thousands of saint rays surged towards him like an avalanche. The pinnacle of the nascent star realm that Lin Chun had previously repelled was now charging towards him again. Jin Wuxia was forced to fight back, his face pale. Be careful, my lord. This person has a saint heart realm that has opened 71 saint acupoints. Jin Wuxia hurriedly shouted. A saint heart realm that has opened 71 saint acupoints. Lin Chen exhaled, and his battle intent rose. He sternly issued a death order to everyone through the heavenly cycle death seal. Don't let me disrupt your battle rhythm. It's just a saint heart realm. You can't stop me. Lin Chen's order was domineering, carrying with it a trace of arrogance that looked down on the world. Instantly, everyone who was about to riot calmed down again. In a flash, under Lin Chen's body, shrouded in demonic chi, the god of war's armor, leg armor, and golden light converged, and streaks of dragon chi that could destroy mountains and rivers and shatter the universe continuously flowed from his flesh and bones. It started to grow, expand, and merge. Waves of invincible divine power that could destroy thousands of worlds danced and soared. Divine light flashed in Lin Chen's eyes, and it was as if he was possessed by the god of war. As he breathed, he set off a huge storm that could shatter galaxies, blowing the crystal walls of space into pieces and scattering light. His pure power was so powerful that even the knowledgeable servants on the second floor were shocked. Their lord's pure power was faintly rising to 150 trillion dragon power. A trace of blood seeped out of the corner of Lin Chen's mouth. Above 160 trillion dragon power, it's close to the limit. At this moment, Lin Chen's power was rising to the limit of his flesh shell, saint body, saint points, and spiritual realm. His doppelganger immediately refined more healing items from Qing Shui's plant pouch, such as the glazed Bodhi seed, Long Kingguo, Saint Peach, Dragon Blood Saliva, Dream of Three Lives branch, and so on. He absorbed all the healing items in one go. What a strange demon. You have to pay for overusing your power. You won't have the chance. A battle between saints was ever-changing. The seemingly complicated process actually happened in an instant. The jade-robed Saint Heart Realm's 5 fingers rolled with a murderous aura as he slashed down. Hell's Fiend Burial Claw. The gloomy and deadly aura seemed to have come from the depths of hell. 5 green and white claw marks exuded a destructive aura, rolling and surging. In an instant, thousands of attacks were launched towards Lin Chun. If it was in the outside world, this claw could break through the defense of a peak Star Realm cultivator and even seriously injure him in an instant. Ha! Good. I have a punch that could destroy the world and the sky. Lin Chun was filled with lofty sentiments. Laughing wildly, he punched out. Boom, boom, boom. Bang, bang, bang. Once the punch was out, it overturned time and space. Wherever the fist wind passed, the space within tens of thousands of miles exploded crazily, forming a terrible storm of golden light. The center of the storm was enough to absorb all the light in the world. Even light couldn't escape the space where the fist wind passed. Chi! Boom! A huge mushroom cloud exploded between the two parties. It was impossible to see the end of it with a naked eye. The aftershocks of the explosion along the way overturned many prisons. It was like an apocalyptic hurricane passing through, destroying everything. The space shattered like a spider web, smashing a deformed space passage tens of thousands of miles away. The Saint Heart Realm cultivator was forced back more than a few thousand steps. Lin Chen also paid a heavy price. His right arm was bloody and almost unconscious. The injury was not small. However, Lin Chen smiled faintly. He had achieved his goal. You have some tricks up your sleeve. The jade-robed man wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and sneered. Even so, you still can't break through. As long as I'm here, you won't have the chance. Yes, you win. You're so handsome. You're awesome. You're a big idiot. Lin Chen smiled and gave him a thumbs up. Then, he mysteriously retreated. The jade-robed man was stunned. Not only that, all the powerhouses on the 18th and 19th floors, except for the 8 people in Pan Yunlong's battle circle, all retreated. The next moment, the jade-robed man suddenly turned around, and his pupils shrank. However, in front of the closed space tunnel entrance, a dark shadow sneaked into the void and disappeared, leaving behind a little girl with long black hair. Her gem-like eyes flickered with a strange light, and when she smiled, all the prison guards were shocked. It's her. The painful disaster that even 6th and 7th Revolution saints didn't dare to touch. Chapter 1368. Lin Chen's frontal attack was just a feint. His main trump card was this little girl. This little girl was the only one whose life he couldn't control with the universal death seal. She was also the only one in the entire holy prison who could gradually disintegrate the 9-killer seal. This was something that even the big shots on the 19th level couldn't do. Retreat. Everyone had a tacit understanding and was already prepared. The moment they changed their attack and delayed the opponent, they all retreated, crossing the void and teleporting thousands of miles away. He actually let this monster out. Is this demon crazy? Pan Yunlong, who had always been calm and composed, who would not lose his composure even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, and who was as cold and ruthless as an iron-blooded hero, now looked as if he had seen a ghost. He knew that the 18th level of the prison was empty, but he didn't check the highest level of the prison, because the prisoners there couldn't be called humans at all. They were natural disasters. You've done me a big favor by locking me up for so long. Let me give you a small gift. The black-haired little girl smiled mischievously. Her delicate palm slightly pushed open the void, and waves of green, gray, and pitch-black mist instantly engulfed the sky like a tornado, blotting out the sky and blotting out the earth. The prison guards didn't even have time to retreat before they were shrouded in the endless mist. It was as if even the space was rapidly corroding, disappearing, and even turning into a vacuum. No, it's really a painful disaster. He's crazy. This demon is really crazy. Brother Yunlong, save us. Some of the prison guards at the peak of the Naxing realm couldn't escape from the safe zone and were caught by an invisible demon hand. Their saint power dissolved and their saint points disappeared. In less than a dozen breaths, they began to shed their skin and flesh like snakes. This scene was extremely horrifying. The Naxing realm was a saint at the top of the saint level. In a 6th-rank sect, they were the strongest elders. In a 7th-rank sect, they were also highly respected. Even in an 8th-rank sect, they could occupy a seat, not to mention the existence of the peak of the Naxing realm. However, at this moment, an entire 10-peak star realm prison guards were gradually moving towards death. Gusts of fishy wind blew past like bone-scraping knives, corroding their saint power into nothingness. Their saint acupoints dimmed and festered. Their flesh and blood cracked open and even bubbled with green bubbles. The 5 Saint Heart Realm guards, including the jade-robed man from before, were also in unbearable pain. Streaks of inky black lines coiled around their necks and bodies like snakes. Their saint energy circulated again and again, only to be melted away again and again. However, the life force of a Saint Heart expert was even stronger, and he was able to protect his life vein. He was not completely in danger of dying, but the pain was worse than death. It was enough to drive any Saint Realm expert crazy. Seeing this scene, the experts in the 18th level couldn't help but feel their scalps go numb. This is the first time I've seen the pain disaster with my own eyes. This aura is truly terrifying now that I think about it. I was actually imprisoned in the same holy prison realm as this existence. Now that I think about it, I'm really lucky to not have died. If I'm not at my peak, I'm afraid that I'll end up in a rather miserable state if I'm in the area where the pain disaster erupts. This might be even more terrible than the calamity of pain in history. She's been imprisoned for so long that it's already beyond comprehension. When Little Shadow returned, Lin Chen caught it with one hand and let it return to Qing Shui's plant pouch. When he looked into the distance, Lin Chen narrowed his eyes and was secretly shocked. This is the pain disaster. The world was vast, and there were all kinds of strange things. There were tens of thousands of races in the world, and they were extremely lucky and had their own misfortune. Everything in the world had its own destiny, and even disasters were no exception. When disasters gathered into a form, they would gather spirits and become a form. Although the human race was the weakest among the races, they were famous for being the most intelligent of all things. When disasters gathered spirits into a form, they would become the human race. In the history of the human race, there were very few cases of human disasters. The human disasters that were born gathered all the bad luck, and calamities in the world into one. From birth, they would become the center of all disasters and the source of all pain. Smallpox, evil spirit seal, rotten saint corpse poison, and so on. These extremely strong poisons that were almost incurable, and even saints would die if they came into contact with them, were gathered in one body. As long as they appeared, they would trigger an unprecedented disaster. In the future, the people of later generations called this existence the pain disaster. It was symbolized as the source of all pain. If the auspicious beast was a surprise given to living beings by the world, the calamity of pain was the wrath of the heavens and earth. When the pain disaster was born, its aura could turn any existence below the war emperor into blood within a radius of 100,000 miles. If a war emperor was within 10,000 miles, he wouldn't even be able to last a breath before his internal organs would be corroded and he would die. Even if a saint got close, he would die on the spot. Moreover, this was only a baby, and it already had such a baleful aura. In the past, as long as any pain disaster existed in the world, it would cause countless disasters and take away countless lives. Regardless of whether the host was willing or not, the existence of the pain disaster would mercilessly reap all the lives in the world once it erupted. After that, the pain disaster became an existence feared by all the races in the world. The dragon race once waged war with the human race several times, saying that it was the most terrifying disaster in the world. The history of the pain disaster was extremely long and rare. Moreover, there would only be one pain disaster in any era. As long as the current pain disaster didn't die, there would never be another disaster born. Tracing back to a certain period of history, the human race's pain disaster seemed to have disappeared forever and never appeared again. However, the truth was that it didn't disappear. The host of the pain disaster was suppressed under the holy prison by a mighty figure back then. However, such an existence was no longer something that could be suppressed by humans. Even if it was suppressed, the power of the disaster would accumulate and grow day by day. In order to prevent the endless pain disaster from continuing to appear, the upper echelons of the sacred boundary chose a way to treat the symptoms but not the root cause. They imprisoned the last humanoid disaster at that time. The result was the scene in front of them. There was no doubt that this little girl had surpassed any previous pain disaster. She had grown to an unprecedented level of power that no one could estimate. If she was placed in the outside world and placed in any rank 7 or even rank 8 sect, corpses would be everywhere in a short while, and saints would fall in droves. Chi, chi, chi. Waves of green smoke rose. A peak Nashing realm cultivator was the first to be unable to hold on and turned into a pile of saint bones. One had to know that the prison guards who died on the 19th level had only just entered the Nashing realm. Most of the saint points that they had opened were between 61 to 64 saint points. As for the Na-Xing realm cultivators who followed Pan Yunlong, all of them had opened 70 saint points and were the Sacred Heart realm. Then there were 2, 3, and 4. They were unstoppable. The existence that was extremely difficult to kill in the past, the peak Na-Xing realm cultivators, was now falling at a hair-raising speed, and all the criminals in the holy prison saw a strong ray of hope. The hope of breaking out of the holy prison grew stronger and stronger. Chapter 1369. Time passed slightly and returned to when Lin Shun was negotiating with the calamity of pain. Zhou Tian's seal of life and death used the seal of life and death to implant a living being's spirit source. But this little girl only had a body and consciousness. She didn't have a spirit source. When Lin Shun infiltrated her spirit and consciousness, it was like a chaotic and boundless storm. Just as the legend said, a disaster in human form. Strictly speaking, this little girl could not be considered a complete life. Lin Shun said, "You said that you can completely control your own power now, right?" The black-haired girl nodded. "Yes, I can freely release and control the eruption of my body's energy. I already don't want to stay here anymore. I want to find a chance to completely die. Being imprisoned here and enduring endless years is a very boring thing. Death is a release, isn't it? Even if I go out, even if I want to hide at the ends of the earth, your human race will use the slogan of righteousness to kill me." The little girl's tone was a little lonely. Then she giggled and said, "You are different from the others. When you look at me, there is no fear. You have a way to kill me, right?" Lin Shin suddenly smiled and said, "Okay, I will let you out. However, without my order, you can't act on your own. If you go against the agreement, you will lose a chance." "My lord, please don't." Xiaoling hurriedly stopped him. The black-haired girl ignored Xiaoling. Her beautiful eyes flickered like a black light as she asked curiously, "What chance?" Lin Shin looked directly at the little girl in the prison and smiled. "A chance to leave the holy prison, a chance to truly return to being ordinary and not be hunted down by all living beings." Crack! When the shackles fell to the ground and the 9-killer seal was removed, the little girl stared at the person in front of her in a daze. Return to being ordinary. Can I also return to being ordinary? My lord is really fearless. He even dares to release the calamity of pain. It is indeed a shocking and crazy move. But if we use it well, our chances of breaking out of the holy prison will greatly increase. If we want to break through the holy prison, we'll have to face more powerful opponents than this team. If we can get the help of the pain disaster, our chances of success will be greatly increased. The powerhouses of the 18th floor gathered at the edge of the 18th floor and propped up endless holy light to protect Lin Shun. When they looked at Lin Shun from time to time, their gazes were filled with reverence and admiration. Imperceptibly, their admiration for Lin Shun rose to another level. Although Lin Shun could control the life and death of these experts, it didn't mean that he could control their thoughts and consciousness. Lin Shen's performance in the previous battle had exceeded all of their expectations and knowledge. Strength was always the only way to express the truth. It was also the best way to convince others. Boom! Pan Yunlong rode on the 1,000-feet-long cloud dragon and traversed thousands of miles. When he passed through the layers of encirclement, it was as if his movements had been seen through. Fong Ling and Lang Fanyun attacked again with their saber and sword, killing him in midair. "Damn it! Everyone go and save them!" Pan Yunlong shouted angrily. The Sacred Heart prison guards who weren't surrounded could only grit their teeth and use all their defensive skills to charge into the area shrouded by the pain disaster. "Now!" Lin Shen's eyes shone brightly. He suddenly waved his hand. "Follow them. When they save them, it's time for us to break out of the encirclement." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The poisonous fog dissipated and receded like a tide. 1,000 feet wide space avenue opened up in the direction of Lin Shun and the others. There was no poisonous gas in it, and it led directly to the space door. The black-haired little girl and Lin Shen looked at each other from a distance. Lin Shen smiled and gave her a thumbs up. The little girl stuck out her tongue slyly, looking very cute. If not for the fact that they were in the poisonous fog, she would be no different from an innocent girl in the outside world. Everyone followed Lin Shen's footsteps and rushed toward the space avenue that opened up, rushing to the space door that led to the 17th level. There were tens of thousands of space talismans, layers of which destroyed the void. They surrounded the entire space door, like the remains of an ancient civilization. The space door's enchantment was so powerful that it was far beyond the work of any saint in the outside world. How do we open this space passage? Old Xia, it's time for your space great art to be put to use. Use my ass. I've only recovered a little of my strength. Why should I use my space great art? Facing the giant spatial door, the powerhouses were somewhat helpless. Get out of the way. Who cares? Let's give a kick first. Lin Chun shouted, and everyone hurriedly retreated. An obscure divine light flashed past. Chi, bang! The ultimate divine power that pierced through heaven and earth gathered at one point and suddenly bombarded the space door. It shook the heavens and the earth, and a gap of more than 100 feet appeared on the space door. When they saw Lin Chun lifting his leg and retracting it, the expert's jaws almost fell to the ground. This lord was too fierce. He kicked open the space door that led to the upper level. When it was time to do it, he did not hesitate at all. What are you waiting for? Your lord is handsome, but now is not the time to admire him. Hurry up, yo-yos. Lin Shen waved his hand, and everyone was excited. They rushed into the silver-white space passage above. Long Jiushan, who had always been known for his ferocious fighting style, patted Lin Chen's shoulder and sighed. My lord, you are too fierce. Lin Chen smiled faintly. His confidence was laced with flirtatiousness. I have something even fiercer. The black-haired little girl turned into a black light that filled the sky. She left the poisonous fog area and shot toward Pan Yunlong. Pan Yunlong felt his hair stand on end. He felt a sense of danger, as if he had been targeted by a primordial species. The black fog condensed into a slender, jade-like hand that flickered with a strange black light. It slammed down. Pan Yunlong blocked it with his saber and slashed it. Chi! Bang! The black fog exploded, and the slender hand that had just formed was cut into nothingness. However, it successfully covered Jiang Taishu and the others' retreat. Do you want to play with me too? The black fog rolled, and a slender and exquisite figure appeared. Her beautiful black hair was like a waterfall. The soft hair contrasted with the girl's smile, making her look breathtaking. The horror of the calamity of pain was that even the top saints could not guard against it. Its frontal combat ability was slightly inferior. Even so, Pan Yunlong did not dare to be careless. It was not like those imprisoned criminals. Its power was a monster that was growing day by day in the holy prison. In terms of threat level, it was not wrong to lock it up on the 19th level. Back then, he had locked it up on the 18th level so that the Helm Masters on the 17th and 19th levels could support the 18th level immediately. If there was any movement, they could instantly gather their strongest power to suppress it. Girl, come back. When Lin Chen's voice came, the little girl's body trembled. Her beautiful eyes moved and quietly hid. Want to run? Pan Yunlong's eyes flashed with anger. Chapter 1370. Just as he was about to continue his pursuit, he heard the screams of his subordinates. Brother Yunlong, save me. I can't hold on any longer. I don't want to die like this. Brother, save him first. Everyone, regardless of whether they were in the Star Realm or the Sacred Heart Realm, shouted for Pan Yunlong in unison. Damn it, shut up. Pan Yunlong was filled with rage. He flew up with his saber and charged into the poison tied aggressively. He had no intention of letting Lin Shun and the rest go. On the other side, Lin Shun had Little Shadow hide his doppelgangers. After collecting all the attribute light balls dropped by the fallen prison guards, everyone except the last 8 people entered the space passage. At this moment, the last 8 powerhouses on the 18th floor saw that Pan Yunlong was relentlessly chasing after them. Instantly, they were on high alert, and their expressions were solemn. I'll bring up the rear. You guys go first. At this moment, the handsome and carefree Chi Fian stood at the back of the team and smiled faintly. After this, I'll leave the safety of the Lord to you guys. All the powerful people on the 19th level were shocked. Chi Fian, are you going to use your true cultivation? Don't be crazy. You'll die. The others were bewildered. Chi Fian laughed. Ha ha. Of course I can't use my true cultivation, but it's still enough to deal with a peak Sacred Heart Realm cultivator. Boom! Chi Fian's Saint Acupoints glowed brightly as crimson red saint light danced in the air. Chi Fian's temperament was constantly changing. His long hair fluttered in the wind like flickering flames. His Saint Acupoints began to release a trace of saint energy that could suppress eternity. 10 red suns burned fiercely beside him. The heat spread throughout the entire 18th level of the sacred dungeon. Its power was overwhelming, burning all the poisonous fog until it sizzled. Chi Fian stretched out his hand. Within the 10 red suns, streaks of red light surged violently. Finally, he pulled out a red arrow that was hundreds of feet long. The tip of the arrow flowed with a terrifying sharpness that could pierce through the heavens and earth. It was as if a red sun had been formed from the 9 heavens. The temperature that could burn the heavens and burn the earth caused the 7 people standing beside him to feel a violent burning sensation. 10 crimson suns ignited into fiery dragon-like waves of fire and transformed into a crimson bow brimming with saintly might. It appeared out of nowhere and was grasped by Chi Fian. He used the crimson sun as a bow and the crimson mist as an arrow. Chi Fian came riding on the rolling waves of fire. When he slightly leaned back to draw the bow, the ends of his hair danced and the crimson mist surged. It could be said that he was extraordinary, like a deity descending to the mortal world. The corner of Chi Fian's mouth was bleeding continuously, but he was laughing heartily. I've been singing madly in the air, swaggering and domineering for who's the hero. This arrow is a gift from me, Chi Fian, to my lord. Clang. Whoosh. The sound of wind being torn apart came like a sonic boom, and a wisp of crimson light flashed and rose from the horizon. It enlarged infinitely and finally became the most dazzling light in the world. The hearts of the 7 retreating experts shook violently. He was back. The sky-burning arrow saint of the flame domain had returned. The charm of this arrow was the same as it was in the past. This arrow traversed tens of thousands of miles. One arrow could shatter the universe. One arrow could burn the sky. And it was undefeatable like a god. Pan Yunlong, who was targeted by the crimson bow, felt his scalp tingle. It was as if he had been targeted by the sharpest blade in the world. The coldness was bone-piercing, and he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. His life's instincts kept warning him. Rumble. Dazzling crimson light burst out from the 18th level of the holy dungeon and filled the entire holy dungeon. 15 minutes later. I've underestimated them. Pan Yunlong wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and hovered in the air, panting like a bull. His chest was full of holes, and his bones were broken. There was a fist-sized scar in front of his chest that directly penetrated his divine body. It was a ghastly sight. A true dragon was still a true dragon. Even if a dragon was in shallow waters and was broken and incomplete, it was still a true dragon. Chi Fian's arrow had almost killed him on the spot. Unfortunately, he was an expert at the peak of the Sacred Heart Realm. As long as his Sacred Heart was not broken, his body would never die. These bastards won't be able to escape. I'll kill them later. It's not that simple. You have to face the Lord and prison guards of the entire holy dungeon. What can you do with your broken bodies? Later, I'll surround you from the front and back. All of you will die. Pan Yunlong sheathed his saber and charged into the poison tide to rescue his subordinates. Inside the space tunnel, Lin Shun gave the black-haired girl a thumbs up and chuckled. You killed 7 peak Star Realm experts in one move. Not bad. The black-haired girl put her hands on her hips and smiled proudly. Don't forget your promise. No problem. After this is done, I'll even treat you to a lollipop. What's a lollipop? It's something that all men like to treat girls to. When everyone was relieved, the last 7 people caught up with the main group. Lin Shin's expression changed when he saw Chi Fian unconscious. What happened? The 7 people looked at each other and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Jiang Taishu said. In order to cover the rear, he released some of his strength. Now that his wounds have split open again, although his life is not in danger, he can't fight anymore. Lin Shin suddenly understood. No wonder the retreat was so successful and Pan Yunlong didn't catch up. It was Chi Fian's doing. Take good care of him. None of you can die. All of you have to survive and return to the sacred boundary. Lin Shin scolded everyone as he handed Jiang Taishu a storage ring. Everyone looked at each other and laughed heartily. Time passed slightly. When the battle on the 18th floor had turned the world upside down. Even deeper on the 19th floor. Rumble. The space entrances of a few demon dens suddenly expanded. Unlike before, it wasn't low-level holy demon kings that were transported over this time. Instead, it was a group of demons in human form. The leader of the group was a young man. His face was fair and handsome, his eyebrows were sharp, and his nose bridge was high. He had a heroic aura, and when the corners of his mouth curled up, he was like an elegant and untainted young master. However, the strange thing was that a crack suddenly appeared on his fair neck. A grayish-white eyeball was rotating and scanning the surroundings as if it was alive. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Demonic snakes with rising demonic aura stuck out their tongues from both sides of his shoulders. 10 grayish-white eyeballs opened and closed continuously on the young man's cheeks and neck. It was extremely strange. The 10 powerful demons stood quietly beside him. They didn't dare to make a sound and didn't even dare to breathe loudly. After a while, the young man laughed heartily. Yes, the vision that I sensed was indeed correct. There was a huge battle here. The humans who were imprisoned here have also disappeared. That female demon took away a group of powerful humans. Although the remaining humans are not as powerful as the previous batch, they have the most potential. Yes, they disappeared at the same time. It seems that they have escaped from prison. The young man looked up at the sky of the 19th floor and smiled slightly. Without the 9 killer seals, they are just food on a plate that can be easily obtained. If we can obtain these bodies, our plan can continue one step ahead. Kings, follow me to watch a good show. It would be best if, when the 10 eyeballs opened on the young man's forehead, he smiled evilly. It would be best if we could bring them back. Chapter 1371. System. Have you confirmed it? The search has been completed for the host. This is the Calamity of Pain chapter recorded in Tuo Sheng's 980th volume. It can transfer the Calamity of Pain's luck to a spiritual plant of fate. This spiritual plant will become an unprecedented spiritual plant of disaster. Attention to the host. All records of the Calamity of Pain chapter are theoretical. There may be different effects and risks compared to actual practice. Lin Shun was confident that he could turn the Calamity of Pain into a harmless spiritual body. Although the black-haired girl could control the power in her body freely, it was not absolute control. Without the 9 seals, there would still be large-scale disasters after a period of time. Once it was released to the outside world, it would be a disaster. Everything had a chance. When Lin Shun released her, he had already confirmed that Tuo Sheng had met the previous Calamity of Pain. Tuo Sheng was good at recording the characteristics of other races. He had a deep understanding of the Calamity of Pain. Unfortunately, before he could put it into practice, the previous Calamity of Pain had been besieged and killed by the powerful human beings. I hope my wish is fulfilled. If this little girl can become a harmless spiritual body like the one in the Void Thunder Pool, it will be the same as having a super expert by my side. The black-haired girl was different from Lin Chen's other servants. Even if he could lead them back to the sacred boundary, they would not be able to help Lin Chen in a short time. First, their identities could not be exposed. Otherwise, if the higher-ups of the sacred prison found out, Lin Chen's background would be investigated immediately. Second, their strength. After being imprisoned in the sacred prison for countless eras and going through countless battles with the demon race, their cultivation and sacred body had been weakened to an extremely low level. They had to rest well. Third, resources. Their identities could not be exposed, which meant that it would be extremely difficult for them to obtain resources to heal their injured bodies. There were almost no ways or opportunities to obtain treasures that could heal their injuries. Secondly, with Lin Chen's alchemy skills, it would be like throwing a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. He could not completely heal them. At most, he could delay their injuries and replenish their sacred power. Even though Lin Chen had the creation pill Saint Yu Wangsheng as an authoritative figure in alchemy, first, he couldn't cook without rice. Second, he couldn't display his alchemy abilities. With his injured body, how could he refine top-grade saint pills? Therefore, all in all, the only person that Lin Chen could bring out of the encirclement was this black-haired little girl. Of course, his identity could not be exposed. She had killed Star Warriors as if she were picking up grass. Just the thought of bringing this big shot with her was exciting. Lin Chen's heart was filled with anticipation when Jiang Taishu suddenly said, "My lord, we've reached the entrance to the 17th floor." Lin Chen's spirit was roused. He rubbed his palms together and his fighting spirit soared. He shouted, "Everyone prepare for battle. These bastards must be thinking of surrounding us like dumplings and attacking us from the front and back. Hee hee, then we'll give them a good beating. If they start fighting later, we'll try our best to stall for time." All the experts were on guard. Everyone had the same guess. They had only passed the first trial. Next, they would have to face all the experts in the holy dungeon. The corners of Marshal Lin's mouth rose crazily. "You want to attack me from the front, and now you're attacking me from the back? I like to be in the middle. The 17th floor of the holy dungeon." Buzz, buzz, buzz. The space rippled as Lin Chen and the rest descended. This, Brother Tai Xiaocheng and the rest didn't come back? Sensing the arrival of the group, the remaining 4 prison guards on the 17th floor were shocked. "Everyone, listen up. Reinforce the 16th floor. You must suppress all the criminals on the 16th floor." At this moment, the 4 prison guards received an urgent message. They looked at each other and immediately opened a giant portal to the 16th floor of the holy dungeon. The main forces of the holy dungeon were all mobilized to the 16th floor. Long Jiushan and Ji Wuchen stood right in front of them, ready for battle. It was only then that the crowd realized that there was not a single guard on the 17th floor of the Saint Prison other than the dark and gloomy cages. They've all left? While Long Jiushan was puzzled, Lin Chen stepped forward and narrowed his eyes. At this moment, Little Shadow sent a telepathic message to Lin Chen. "They've just opened a portal above and are heading to a higher floor." A higher floor? Looks like they're gathering their forces and planning to kill us all at once. Lin Chen was silent for a moment and then smiled. "However, they won't be able to take the people on the 17th floor away in time. These people will also be an important force for us to break out." In the extreme cold dungeon on the south side of the 17th floor of the holy dungeon, a shirtless man was resting with his eyes closed. Frost covered his body, and the bone-chilling cold invaded his body. His face was pale, but he stood still and sat cross-legged in the cage. Suddenly, he seemed to have sensed something and suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were actually the color of green jade, as if there was a hidden sharpness. This is... Whoosh! A gust of wind came. Bang! Boom! The ice cage was blasted away, and the frost exploded into pieces. A white ray of light shot into the forehead of the green-eyed man. His 9-killer seal had been removed. Then, evil laughter spread throughout all the cold prisons in the south. Sleep my ass. Wake up. Those who are not afraid of death and want to destroy the holy prison, come with me. We'll break through the holy prison together. Killing one is worth it. Killing two is worth it. Whoosh. The sky was filled with raindrops that flickered with golden light and white light. The eyes of the half-naked man with green pupils trembled. They were all gold Saint Origin coins. Demons? How can the demons have the means to remove the 9-killer seal? Break through the holy prison? Haha, count me in. We'll be used as tools if we stay here. We'll die sooner or later. Let's King fight before we die. Many experts responded to Lin Shun from all directions. Lin Shun led his team to liberate all the criminals on the 17th level and left behind a large amount of gold Saint Origin coins. He gave him a choice. Then, Lin Shen's team charged toward the portal to the 16th level aggressively. Get out of the way. Let us do it this time. Long Jioshan, Lang Fanyun, and Fong Ling rushed to the front. Long Jioshan imitated Lin Shun and lifted his leg to kick, shaking the entire spatial door with pure strength. Lang Fanyun and Fong Ling immediately unleashed their sky-piercing sharpness. Using their saint power as blades, their sharpness split the sky and condensed into saint swords. Their sharpness was unstoppable. Together with Long Jioshan's attacks, they split open the spatial door, an extended portal to the sky. The entire team entered it instantly and went to the next level. Seeing the space door open, the powerhouses of the 17th level that were released entered the space channel one after another. They were all gathered together, forming a large group. My lord, don't you plan to subdue the people on the 17th level? In the portal, Jiang Taishu asked Lin Chun telepathically. Chapter 1372. In any case, these experts of the 17th floor who had survived until now had not lost their courage and pride because of the holy prison. Back then, when the holy prison was broken, they did not become lackeys of the demon race. Lin Shen replied without even turning his head, "If you want to subdue them, you'll have to reveal your true identity. Who knows when those fellows below will counterattack? There's no need to risk exposing your identity by explaining to these people." In fact, these reasons were secondary. The most important thing was that Lin Shen's spiritual realm was limited. After engraving the heavenly cycle death seal on the 18th level expert's spiritual sea, he was nearing his limit. Every expert's spiritual consciousness was like a star's core, and their energy was vast and vigorous. The Zhou Tian death seal could control their life and death, but at the same time, it required the user's spiritual energy to be strong enough to control more experts. Controlling 41 experts on the 18th level and 17 experts on the 19th level was already nearing Lin Chen's limit. At most, he could add 3 or 4 more people. Now that the holy prison had begun to gather their forces, victory could be decided in a minute or a second. He did not have time to explain his identity to subdue 3 or 4 experts. Don't let the opponents group up. It would be best if they could take turns to fight with him. His side was not afraid of a battle of attrition, as there were many experts. But if they focused on a battle of attrition, the entire holy prison would be overturned. The enemies could be injured, but Lin Chen's side could not. Once they were injured, it could be fatal. Holy prison, 16th level. Shwa shwa shwa. Silver light poured down, and the 5-colored holy light descended. More than 20 figures walked out of the holy light and occupied one side. In the silver holy light, a man with a body like a mountain and an aura like a giant mountain slowly walked out. Holy Prison's 11th level's prison master, Kwang Wanli, leading 24 prison guards in position. Clang! A long sword cry rang out like a dragon, and 3,000 sword lights spun like a river of stars, pouring down from the 9 heavens. More than a dozen people with holy swords on their backs stood in the south, exuding a dignified aura. Holy Prison's 10th level's prison master, Duan Inhai, leading 18 prison guards in position. In the west, An inky green tornado spun like a millstone. 20 figures appeared in the eye of the hurricane cave. Jun Xianfan, the master of the 9th level of the holy prison, and 20 prison guards, in position. The entire 16th level of the Saint prison changed drastically. One by one, the strongest teams arrived in person, and all the Hell Overlords gathered at the 16th level of the Saint prison. In the outside world, any one of these groups was enough to destroy a rank 6 or even a rank 7 giant. All of them were gathered in all directions of the 16th level. Xiao Yunyun, the overlord of the 6th layer of hell, was absent-minded at this moment. She was sweating profusely. Someone has snuck into the holy prison. Could it really be related to Jian Wuji, who disappeared from the 6th floor some time ago? No, that can't be a coincidence. I don't believe it. There are still people who can sneak into the 19th level from the 6th level. Xiao Yunyun's anxious look was seen by some prison overlords. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the prisons floated up one after another. Like the shifting of stars, they were sucked in by a giant hand of energy high up in the sky. After moving a few times, they were all placed in the same area. All the criminals on the 16th floor were detained in the same area by the Hell Master of the 16th floor. Kikik, looks like there's going to be a good show. After being quiet for so many years, is there going to be some big movement in the Saint prison? Look at these people. They look like they just ate shit. I haven't seen them like this for a long time. The criminals who were detained in the same area were all restless. Among these people, they were all ruthless characters. Once there was a riot, they would also become restless factors. The Hell Masters of the 2nd and 11th levels are all here, right? There are still people from the 12th and 15th levels who haven't arrived yet. An old man in linen robes appeared in the void. He had a hunchback and looked weak and harmless. However, his eyes shone with a soul-stirring light that was like a bottomless abyss. Everyone be on guard. I have sensed that the space passage to the 17th level has been blasted open. Once they appear later, beat them to death. The old man in sackcloth ordered. All the prison overlords and prison overlords who had gathered here aimed at the entrance to the next level. Swoosh! Suddenly, a strange blood-red light beam shot out from the space vortex. The Hell Master of the 16th level, the old man in sackcloth, suddenly shouted through telepathy. Attack! Whoosh! Boom! 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 On the 16th level of the Saint prison, the wind and clouds changed color. Heaven and earth were turned upside down. Countless colorful saint powers were all attacking the strange light beam. Unexpectedly, the blood-red light beam was moving at a speed that was almost faster than light. It kept turning and dodging the saint powers' attacks. The explosion caused heaven and earth to churn, and the saint prison's space trembled. What a fast speed! He's rushing to the space passage here. Stop him. We can't stop him. His target is those criminals. Many prison overlords saw that the blood-red light beam was unbelievably fast and broke through their defense line. Rip! The space was torn apart, and a huge black hand turned into a giant palm that covered the sky and smashed the blood-red light beam violently. The light beam shattered, and what disappeared was only an afterimage. What? In the distance, the old man in sackcloth's eyes trembled. When the light beam shattered, he saw two figures. The blood-red light beam descended on the area where all the criminals were being held. In just an instant, hundreds and thousands of light beams shot out. Buzz, buzz, buzz. When the space rippled violently, all the prison overlords' expressions changed drastically. The 9-killer seal was dispelled. In an instant, all the prison overlords saw clearly that inside the blood-red light beam was a man with long hair as white as snow. He was wearing a blood-red cloak, and his eagle-like eyes were as sharp as knives. He was handsome and cold. Beside him, there was also a young and evil devil. None of the prison overlords would mistake this big shot for someone important. It was the Blood King imprisoned on the 19th level of the Saint prison, Yun Tianguang. He used to be the overlord of the blood realm. His blood escape technique and 3,000 blood shadows were known as the top 20 orange grade movement techniques in the sacred boundary. No wonder all the prison overlords couldn't hit him earlier. It's him. This is big trouble. The criminals on the 16th level are also a bunch of lunatics. These guys escaped too quickly. They didn't have time to switch to the other levels. The one beside him is a demon? Doesn't this guy think highly of himself? Why is he with a demon? While all the experts were shocked, the handsome and evil demon couldn't help but laugh. His laughter reverberated throughout the 16th level of the Saint Prison. Thank you, prison overlords, for giving us such a beautiful opening fireworks. You even helped us gather all our helpers. Good people. You are really a group of good people. Rip. Bang. 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 At this moment, the 16th level of the Saint Prison was filled with fireworks. Groups of people landed on the 16th level of the Saint Prison like ghosts. Faint shadows were dissipating from their bodies, making it impossible for the prison overlords to guard against them. Chapter 1373. Facing the sudden arrival of the team, the 300-odd prison guards could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. When did they rush up here? The old man in hemp clothes stared at Jiang Taishu, who was in the air, and his expression darkened. So that's how it is. First, Jiang Taishu predicted our attack and the location of the criminals. Then, he used Yun Tianguang as bait to let us attack first and avoid the most dangerous moment. Then he used a method that even I could not detect to hide his aura and brought everyone to the 16th level. While Yun Tianguang attracted the enemy's attention, he also lured this demon to release the other criminals' seals. What a good plan, what a good plan. He had spent so much effort to detain all the criminals, but it had instead encouraged the other party to break out of prison. Rumble. The battle began. Beat his mother for me. Long Jioshan shouted and led the charge. A chaotic battle instantly broke out. The prison guards and the others did not expect this at all. They did not expect the final battle to unfold in such a manner. However, the prison guards were all shocked. Who exactly are you? The old man in hemp clothes was terrifyingly gloomy. He looked straight at the only demon in the field, and his 79 saint acupoints surged with power. The young demon laughed mockingly. Who am I? I am the most handsome demon king among the demons. You can call me the most handsome among the demons. As soon as he finished speaking, he threw a punch in his direction. The wind created by the punch pierced through the void and shook the galaxy. You're courting death. The old man in hemp clothes smashed Lin Chen's punch with his palm, causing the surrounding spatial crystal walls to crack like spider webs. Everyone, listen up. Focus on the fellows who came up from below. The criminals on the 16th level are secondary. Prison masters from the 7th level and above target Jiang Taishu. Don't let him take over the battle. The old man in hemp clothes charged toward Lin Shun and Yun Tianguang like a sharp sword. I want to see how much saint power you have to use your movement techniques. My lord, let's go first. Yun Tianguang protected Lin Shun, while Fong Ling and the others descended to block the old man in hemp clothes. Oh, Ji Wuchen, Zi Qianshou, Shengwan Wudi, Lang Fanyun, and Fong Ling Ha. I didn't expect that I would need to mobilize such big shots to stop this old man. What's wrong? You didn't accept the holy prison's invitation to surrender? Aren't you very arrogant? In the end, you become the lackeys of the demon race. In the end, you're just a few spineless cowards. The hemp-robed old man laughed coldly, then sliced his finger through the air. Instantly, the sky seemed to split open, and a bizarre beam of light shot toward the crowd. Don't fall for this guy's provocation. Fong Ling calmly transmitted his voice to everyone. Everyone had a tacit understanding and worked together. They surrounded the hemp-clothed old man in a battle of attrition and guerrilla warfare. While Lin Shun was retreating under the cover of Yun Tianguang and the others, Little Shadow appeared in the air with painful disaster on his back. Lin Shun looked at the black-haired girl and said seriously, "Little Beauty, It's up to you now." Within her long black hair, the little girl revealed her white teeth and smiled innocently. "I will let them die in a very rhythmic manner." On the other side, the criminals on the 16th floor rushed out of their cages and joined the battle. Most of them directly attacked the holy prison's people, but a small number of evil people attacked the experts on the 17th floor, causing the situation to become even more chaotic. Although the holy prison did not have the upper hand, they still had the absolute advantage in terms of strength. There were 371 prison guards, and many of them were elites. On Lin Chen's side, including the experts released from the 17th floor, there were currently 200 people. Even if other prisoners escaped, the number would not exceed 400. The number of prisoners on the 16th floor was uneven. Although there were close to 500 of them, their condition and combat power were not comparable to the experts brought out by Lin Chen. Even the powerhouses on the 17th floor had absorbed some golden saint origin coins and could mobilize some saint energy. The criminals on the 16th floor did not pose much of a threat to the prison masters or powerhouses of the same cultivation level as the prison masters, but at least they could share some of the burden. Right now, the battle was almost 50-50. Neither side had a breakthrough. Furthermore, Pan Yinlong's men were not completely annihilated. Once he attacked from the back, Lin Shun and the others would be surrounded and attacked from both sides. Therefore, there must be a decisive force to break the current balance and let Lin Shun and the others break out. This decisive force might be the calamity of pain. "My lord, the prison guards from the holy prison have not completely arrived yet. We must break out before they arrive." Jiang Taishu secretly transmitted his voice to Lin Shun. He and Little Shadow worked together to send the black-haired girl into the most chaotic battle. Rumble. The next moment, the wind and clouds suddenly changed, and the plague surged. The terrible tide of poison formed a vortex, and with the little girl as the center, it rapidly expanded and covered the area where a large number of saints were fighting. The old man in hemp clothes' expression changed slightly. Calamity of pain? Damn it, is this demon crazy? How could he release such a disaster? The prison guards' scalps tingled. Even if they had not seen the calamity of pain, they had more or less heard of it. It was an existence that even saints would tremble in fear. Lin Shun gave her a thumbs up. "I'll leave it to you. I'll go and blast open the space door." Chi. Clang. 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 Before Lin Shun finished speaking, 12 chains flew out like coiling dragons and shot across the sky of the entire 16th level of the holy prison. They condensed into streamers and shot toward the black-haired girl like lightning. These 12 streamers were like a tribulation, and she could not dodge or retreat in time. They instantly bound her. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The tide of poison pulled back the black-haired girl's delicate body. She could not trigger the tide of calamity. She looked surprised for the first time. "This is old Ma. I'm late." "Ha ha ha. Fortunately, I went to see Lord Heavenly Saint's experiment. It's really useful. I didn't expect that would become a life-saving straw now." 3 teams appeared out of nowhere. The man in the lead was dressed in a fluttering white robe. He was extraordinarily handsome and dignified. Cold-killing intent flashed past his eyebrows. When the corner of his mouth rose, he looked at Lin Shun with a sneer. "I knew that you bunch of desperate escapees would release this damned human-shaped disaster. After all, you're just a bunch of mad dogs forced to a dead end. But now, let's see what you're going to use to fight against my holy prison." The prison guards were overjoyed. It's the prison masters of the 12th and 15th levels. Great, the most crucial reinforcements. So they went to use the binding chains that Lord Heavenly Saint made to suppress the calamity of pain. No wonder the reinforcements were delayed. These criminals are finished. The moment these 4 teams appeared, the morale of the prison guards camp soared. Something that can suppress the calamity of pain? Lin Chen narrowed his eyes. The holy prison was indeed the holy prison. They even had such a backup plan. Ha ha! How many years has it been since we brothers fought together? At this moment, a loud laughter that shook the universe came from the passage below. A cloud dragon danced in the sky as it soared through the horizon. Pan Yunlong had a saber by his waist as his killing intent skyrocketed. Pan Yunlong had also arrived. On the prison break team's side, everyone's hearts sank. This old man had caught up so quickly. They were surrounded. Chapter 1374. Lin Shun and the rest were pincered. The entire Saint Prison's top forces were gathered on the 16th level. The balance of power between the two sides was suddenly broken. Although Pan Yunlong and the rest had lost 7 Pinnacle Star Realm experts, none of their top Saint Heart experts were lost. The number of Na Xing Realm and Saint Heart Realm experts was the key to determining the outcome of this decisive battle. Looks like we can only stop here. At least we can come out and fight. Staying in that broken prison all day long, I'm going to die of boredom. Many experts had long been indifferent to life and death. Facing this desperate situation, they were extremely indifferent. In fact, many experts even surged with an even crazier battle intent. Come on, dogs of the Saint Prison, I'm going to kill you all today. This old man used to command the various domains of the sacred boundary. Do you think it's your turn to judge my life? If you want to eat this old man, you'll have to break a few of your front teeth. The entire 16th level of the Saint Prison glowed with holy light in all directions. An 8-armed demonic dragon appeared out of thin air, pushing mountains and rivers, and punching through the space barrier. Holy power swept through the sky. The vigorous holy power condensed into countless cheilants, black tortoises, azure dragons, and other ancient species. They rushed toward the prison guards like crushing dry weeds. Flowers fell from the sky. Holy lightning turned into lightning and pierced through the prison guards' bodies. Chi, terrifying saber Chi, burst forth and slashed across thousands of miles. It split open the bodies of the 2 criminals, causing their saintly blood to splatter everywhere. Within the 16th level of the Saint Prison, an unprecedentedly fierce battle broke out. All the experts began to fight with their lives on the line. Some were sinister and cunning, some were savage and bloodthirsty, some were crafty, and some were fearless in the face of death. None of them retreated. They were so ruthless that they were willing to trade their lives for theirs. They didn't care if they could survive to the next move. One had to know that all the experts on both sides added up to a total of 1,200 saints. None of these 1,200 experts were super experts whose cultivation was lower than life and death realm. Even in the outside world, where experts were as common as trees in the forest, they would be considered first-class experts. But here, they were just the starting standard. Such a terrifying and tragic battle was extremely rare in the history of the sacred boundary. It was an unparalleled battle that only happened in a few super events. Life and Death Realm, Complete Life and Death Realm, Star Realm, and Peak Star Realm experts all had a great risk of dying here. The slightest carelessness would be drowned by the crazy attacks. Even if they focused on defense, it was very likely that they would become the target of the bombardment. Once the defensive formation was broken, they would be blasted into pieces in an instant. If it weren't for the fact that the spatial barrier of the Holy Prison was one of the strongest planes in the Holy World, this place would have long been destroyed. If it were the outside world, the entire region would be in an uproar. Of those who were imprisoned from the 16th level of the Saint Prison and below, which one of them wasn't at the top of the genius ranking, a potential monstrous genius, or even a top genius on the monstrous genius ranking. Their mental states had long since been tempered by the mortal world, and this so-called hopeless situation was utterly incapable of scaring them. Chi, 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 chi. I'm afraid we can't avoid it. Let's wait until the next life to decide who wins. Let's fight the last elimination round first. Lang Fanyun and Fong Ling exchanged a glance in the midst of the battle. Everything was understood without words. Have you been caught up? Lin Shen stood by the side of the little girl who was in agony as he scanned the surroundings. The spatial tunnel was completely guarded by the 4 teams. If they wanted to break through, they would have to break through the defenses of the 4 Hell Overlords. Although the four Hell Overlords had moved, their main force, the St. Heart Realm experts, did not retreat. From the looks of it, they were going to defend the entrance. If Pain Calamity was still on the side of the Prison Break team, there might be a chance. However, Lin Chen's demonic seal did not have a way to remove the binding calamity chains. No wonder these guys are so confident. Judging from the current situation, our chances of winning are less than 20%. Lin Chen's mind raced as he tried to think of a solution. He looked at the binding calamity chains on the black-haired girl. The chains were carved with dragon patterns and were made of pure gold. If Lin Chen released a little of his spiritual power, he would be lost in it. It was an extremely powerful, spatial, sacred artifact. This item had an owner. He could not break it down no matter how he tried. The binding calamity chains did not have absolute control. The aura flowing in the black-haired girl's body was slowly eroding it. In this world, there was nothing that could absolutely restrain Pain Calamity. The same went for the 9 killer seals. If she was given enough time, she might be able to break the chains. However, this time was enough to last until the end of the battle. The black-haired girl suddenly smiled. "Thank you." Her eyes suddenly became as dark and deep as black jade. Black energy faintly flowed at the ends of her hair. Waves of destructive aura, like the great calamity of the heavens, were brewing inside her petite body. "Run. Let your people protect you with all their might. You might have a chance to escape. Although this chain can restrain my power, if I explode with all the energy in my body, I will be able to break free. However, at that time, my power will not be at the level that I can control. You have to protect yourself well." A trace of relief appeared on the girl's sparkling face. It was as if some knot in her heart had been untied. Lin Chen felt that something was wrong and said in a low voice, "What will happen if you completely break free?" The girl smiled. "It will attract all the energy of the calamity. After it completely explodes, I might vanish. Although I can't completely escape, it's a good ending for me, isn't it, Master?" At this moment, the 7 people that were surrounding the hemp-clothed old man flew over and flashed to Lin Chen's side. Lin Chen said in surprise, "Why are you here? Didn't I ask you to delay that old man?" Pan Yunlong helped him break out. "They don't plan to tangle with us. They went to kill the people on the 17th floor first. They plan to leave us for last and kill us together." Xiao Ling frowned slightly. Zi Qianshou shook his head and said, "These guys are not stupid. They know that if we fight to the death with them, once we temporarily release our true strength, it is completely possible for us to drag them down with us." Yu Wangsheng said, "These guys plan to drag the battle out until the end and then concentrate all their forces to deal with us." That's right, the experts on the 19th floor, even though they were all heavily injured and had less than a tenth of their original strength, the strength and trump cards of these 17 people far surpassed the experts on each floor. Each and every one of them was a monster that defied common sense. If that wasn't the case, how could they have been the overlords who led the various eras in the past? If they really wanted to drag an expert down with them, even a heaven-opening stage expert of the 9th layer of the Saint Realm would not dare to underestimate them. No one knew what other trump cards they were hiding. Jiang Taishu's face was even paler at this moment. It seemed that he had used some method that had cost him a lot. He said in a low voice, "Master, I have already deduced the trend of this battle. We will not survive this battle." As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere was especially heavy. The more powerful a diviner was, the more they could deduce calamities and opportunities when they were close to the limit. Even Jiang Taishu said that this battle would not end well, which proved that the chances were close to 0. Fong Ling immediately said, "The only choice is to abandon the general to protect the general. We will use the last of our strength to escort the master out." "No need." Lin Chen suddenly smiled and rubbed the little girl's beautiful black hair beside him. The little girl's violent desire to kill was soothed by him. Lin Chen looked at Jiang Taishu and said with a smile, "When you were deducing this battle, you missed the most important detail and factor." Jiang Taishu was stunned. He cupped his hands and said respectfully, "Master, Please enlighten me. Lin Chen laughed maniacally, looking extremely domineering. That is, you didn't include the most handsome man in your list. Chapter 1375. Hearing Lin Chen's words, the crowd was instantly stunned on the spot. After a short pause, Jiang Taishu's body suddenly trembled. Others did not immediately react, but he, Jiang Taishu, immediately understood. Yes, he did not include the Lord in his calculations. No, to be precise, it was not included in his calculations. Out of everyone present, he was the only one who couldn't see through the general trend of fate. Jiang Taishu's expression was as if he had been enlightened, and he said with a trembling voice, I beg the Lord to solve my doubts. Everyone was puzzled. The power that the Lord could unleash with his cultivation of Saint Layer 3 had indeed overturned their understanding. However, to be able to single-handedly control the situation in such an unparalleled super battle, only those with Saint Heart and Heaven-opening realm could possibly do so. Could it be? Everyone's pupils trembled. Could it be that the Lord was still holding back? Lin Shun took a step forward, and when he loosened his muscles and bones, a series of explosive sounds could be heard. Next, when all of you who are injured retreat, don't think about self-destructing. Just stand by the side and be an obedient and cute little girl. Even though he had transformed into a demon, Lin Shen's smile was still as arrogant and overbearing as before. Let this marshal come and hammer them all to death. Lin Chun suddenly issued an order. System, I want to awaken the third stage of the flesh shell. Host currently has 106.9 billion intermediate heavens path points, consuming 100 billion intermediate heavens path points. Beginning to fully awaken the third stage of the flesh shell, 210%, 230%, 270%. The further one progressed, the more terrifying the attribute points required. From the fourth stage onwards, almost all of them required intermediate heavens path points of trillions. One had to know that Lin Shen's previous 10 billion heavens path points were accumulated from stealing from all the experts in sword domain and the enforcers. This time, his attribute points had directly exceeded 100 billion. 100 billion intermediate heavens path points were all accumulated from stealing from the criminals in the Saint Prison. The attribute points that each criminal stole were different, and just the heavens path points alone exceeded 100 billion. The moment he activated Flesh Shell Awakening, Lin Shen's pure strength began to soar. When he was in the Holy Prison, not only had he sealed his acupoints, but he had also sealed the power of his flesh shell to prevent himself from being exposed if he made a breakthrough in his cultivation. His pure strength was originally at 34 billion dragon power points. After the second stage of the flesh shell awakening, the 200% increase in pure strength allowed him to break through 100 billion dragon power points. At this moment, his pure strength had increased by another 100%, which was close to 140 billion dragon power points. This bit of pure power was naturally unable to turn the tide of the battle. What Lin Shen needed was the increase in his foundation brought about by the awakening of his flesh shell. This would allow him to withstand a greater increase in pure strength from the three-piece Ares God of War set. Originally, Lin Shen had planned to keep these heavenly Tao points for a more comprehensive upgrade. However, he had changed his mind. If he wanted to fight, he would use all his trump cards in one go, be indifferent to life and death, and fight if you don't accept it. Break through the holy prison. If my woman can do it, there's no reason why I, Lin Shun, can't do it. Three-piece Ares set activate. Lin Shun let out an angry roar. Under the protection of the demonic chi, the divine power of the three pieces of the God of War set surged wildly. Golden light enveloped his body and entered every inch of Lin Shen's flesh and bones. Boom, boom, boom. Mountains and rivers rumbled, and the stars moved. The sudden increase in pure strength caused Lin Shen's disguised devil chi to rise. His figure erupted with the aura of an unparalleled giant demon, faintly showing signs of a giant demon that could cover the sky and cover the earth, commanding the winds and clouds. At this moment, the 17th level of the holy prison trembled. It was as if even this space couldn't withstand the emergence of this power. 80 trillion dragon power points, 100 trillion dragon power points, 150 trillion dragon power points, 180 trillion dragon power points. Lin Chen's power finally came to a stop at the 200 trillion dragon power mark. However, it wasn't over yet. System, activate the heaven-defying ability. Host has activated the limit instant kill orange grade innate ability, heaven-defying ability. The heavenly Tao is merciless. The heaven-defying ability returns. Break the defense and instantly kill. System notification. When a host activates the heaven-defying ability, the host will enter the heaven-defying ability for a limited time. When the host's attack can completely break the enemy's defense and enter the enemy's body, the heaven-defying ability will be activated. Range of application. Temporarily effective for those below the 9th Heaven True Saint Realm. Temporarily ineffective for 1st Revolution to 9th Revolution True Saints. Duration of heaven-defying ability, 59 minutes, 59 seconds. When Lin Chen opened his eyes once more, a streak of azure light flashed through his golden pupils. The space in front of him shattered into pieces in an instant. His gaze was like a god descending upon the world. Wherever he looked, everything before him would be swept away. Everyone was dumbfounded. The experts standing beside Lin Chen were completely dumbfounded. Their lord's strength had actually reached another level. What was his limit? What made them even more frustrated was that their lord's cultivation was only at the 3rd Heaven True Saint Realm. How could he contain such terrifying strength? Lin Chen's blood was boiling, and he was in an unprecedentedly high state. He had never controlled such a terrifying amount of pure strength before. He had a feeling that he only needed to use a single finger to shatter countless continents. Even the spatial crystal walls of the sacred boundary felt the same way. When Tian Wu and Earth Annihilation sensed Lin Chen's almost frenzied battle intent, they immediately shouted, "Quick, retreat! Our lord is about to make his move." The experts immediately pulled the black-haired little girl and teleported away. Lin Chen used the heavenly cycle seal of life and death to issue an order to all the servants. "Everyone, listen to my orders. Stand aside. I don't need you to make a move. Protect your lives. No one is allowed to die." Lin Chen's voice boomed like thunder in the ears of all the servants. They reacted instantly and took advantage of the moment when the experts were still in shock to retreat from the battle. "What is that? Hiss! Is that the devil's strength? What's going on? He's still holding back. Quick, stop him. Damn it. Destroy it first. That thing is too strange." Many guards were shocked. The group closest to Lin Chen was the group of the 8th floor's Hell Overlord. With a single order, the Hell Overlord ordered his subordinates to surround Lin Chen at the fastest speed possible. 4 life and death realm experts turned into 4 streaks of saint light and moved thousands of li away. They were the first to surround Lin Chen. Lin Chen didn't look sideways. He opened his mouth and exhaled slightly. The space around him collapsed and distorted. Then he suddenly exhaled. Huff! Boom! 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 A hurricane appeared in a radius of hundreds of thousands of li. Like a cosmic storm, it swept through the 4 life and death realm experts. Violent gales shot out in all directions. They were like swords and sabers, causing light to distort and dim. The terrifying hurricane penetrated the 4's saint power defenses and pierced through their saint bodies. Saint blood spurted out, and the 4 were injured. However, what happened next toppled everyone's understanding. The 4 who were injured just now were full of doubt. Their faces were filled with disbelief before they died. Their saint bodies cracked and shattered. Finally, they turned into fine powder and scattered into nothingness. Lin Chen exhaled 4 life and death realm experts with a single breath. They couldn't resist at all. Silence. A strange silence. Whether it was the hell overlords, holy prison criminals, or Lin Chen servants, they were all stunned. This scene frightened everyone. It wasn't shock, it was pure terror. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.